You are now entering a dangerous liberty zone where God-given natural rights are held sacred and exercised. This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. What is happening, people? Happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. We have a great show for you tonight. We have a great guest who I'm going to introduce in just a moment. But first, I do want to say hi to everybody over in the chat. I see you, Mary Joey. We got Lynn Pell. We got Lance. Lace, thank you for being here. Thank you to all of our mods. Lace is one of our mods. Lori Love, USA. We have Texas Motherbird and Wildwire Media, Gary Shaver, and many, many more. Thank you guys for showing up. And if you haven't said hi yet in the chat, make sure you do so. Make sure you like, subscribe. Down in the description below is also a link if you'd like to become a member. We really appreciate that. That goes a long way. It's a couple dollars a month, and it helps support this channel, and we appreciate you supporting us. We really do. Also, down in the description below are all of our social media links. Make sure you go follow us on X if you'd like to become a subscriber over there. That is also another way that you can contribute to this channel. And also down in the links and in the description is all of Ryan Mauro's links to all of his social media. I want you to go follow him. He is doing great work on many different areas. But tonight specifically, we're going to be talking about the one and only Candace Owens and her recent trip to Russia, among many other things. And Ryan has been doing a lot of investigative work. I've been working with him behind the scenes. He's been sharing information with me. I've been sharing information with him, but he has done just amazing work with this. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and welcome Ryan Mauro to the show. Ryan, thank you for coming in. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for everything that you do. And if you will, take a minute and just introduce yourself to everybody out there that may not know who you are.
Sure. My name is Ryan Mauro. You can follow me on social media. Last name Mauro is Mauro. Basically, I've worked in national security, intelligence, counter-extremism type investigations since I was a teenager. Professionally, that's when I started. And with a specialization, actually, I started studying Russian intelligence as a kid, and then it grew into the Middle East more specifically just because of how events went in life. But it's kind of interesting now that I get to actually use some of that Russian Soviet knowledge I had from long ago, and I wondered if it would ever come back, and now it's back in full force.
Yeah, I think, you and I have discussed it. I've discussed it on this channel and with many other people as well. Look, folks, there is a very well coordinated, funded, and extremely organized psychological operation that's happening right now through social media. And, a lot of these people are sitting around and like, oh, is this a Russian op? Is this an Iranian op or a jihadist op? Or is this a Chinese op? And folks, it's all the above. I think the reason that this is so effective right now is because we have clear coordination between all of those. These multipolar organizations that want one world government that really, they have one thing in common, and that is their hatred for the United States. The United States is the only thing standing in their way when it comes to dominating the globe. It really is. And that's what their goal is. And by the way, it's not just the United States. Right now, the main problem that they have is Donald Trump and the MAGA movement itself. Like, I've been talking about this for a long time. Like the DNC, I don't see any difference between the DNC and the CCP. I think what we have are a lot of people, high levels in the DNC, that understand, that are ideologically driven and very similar to China. I mean, I think that's one and the same. And they are counting on and helping usher in the slow transfer of power from the United States to China. Now, there's a lot of great Democrats out there. They're not all involved with this. But what these people that are trying to change the power structure of the world from the United States to China to Russia and some of these other countries, because they believe in this globalist agenda and because they believe that America is evil, they're the ones out there selling these ideas that they know will damage the United States. They understand that socialized medicine is not good for the United States. They understand that transgenderism is going to do nothing but destroy the United States. They're the ones pushing all of these things under the guise of, humanity or sympathy or empathy. And they are using these emotional arguments for these people to basically vote in policies and vote for things that are going to be a detriment to not only themselves, the future of their family, but ultimately the United States. And I think we see all of these powers coming together, and they're focusing, whether it's China pushing this through social media, Russia, Iran, all of this stuff, they are working behind the scenes together, extremely coordinated. And they're unfortunately working with a lot of Americans and talking heads and some of these people that we used to trust on the right. And that's just, what's happening. What's your take on that, Ryan?
So because I've had such a narrow focus ever since I was a young kid, just on the extremism, subversion, foreign policy element of it.
Yeah.
Politically, I just see things very differently than anybody I know. Like, it's just my brain works a little differently, where I see the bad guys on one side, and I see similar percentages of extremists and people who are compromised and lack integrity in both the Republican and Democratic Party. And so that kind of like binary that people have of liberal versus conservative and Republican versus Democrat, I don't fault anyone for seeing it because it's there.
Yeah.
It doesn't resonate with me. Like, I just see good people in both parties on both political spectrums who kind of almost belong in the same room together, may not realize it. And then I see all of these other actors. And I've said that all the way back to like 2004. And now finally there's people who agree with me on that. And I think it's becoming rapidly very vivid now, where people are talking about woke left and woke right. But I saw that happening back in like 2004, 2005, where it's really become what I call the global seditionist movement is its own thing. There's a seditionist movement in the U.S. That's why you see Tucker Carlson and Anna Kasparian and Victor Bout from the Russian side, who's a terrorist, getting together with Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson. Like, it's all consolidating in exactly the way I've been trying to describe since I was a kid. And I think that was just one of the biggest blessings of my life, is that I got exposed to this at such a young age, before my mind could build in those like reflexive reactions to like liberal Democrat things. Cause it's just, I've always seen the binary differently.
Well, I think we're saying the same thing and just using different terms, but I agree with you. I mean, I think, like you said, what I've even said, this woke right thing this is just globalism repackaged for the right. It's this, like, what it, like the trajectory of whether it's coming from the left or the right, it lands in the exact same spot. And that is, an America that is much less more capable and much less stronger in the world, both military and economically. And I think that's what we're looking at. Now we're going to be jumping into Candace Owens, and I think just to start the show out and just for funsies here, we're going to throw up a video here that I posted to X today. I thought it was hilarious. I found this. Somebody was arguing about something. I decided to look for the video that was talking specifically on this issue. So I found this one, and it's great. And a big shout out to Daily Signal. I never even heard of these guys. They're a conservative organization, and this guy runs it. Apparently he's out of DC. I need to get him on. But I'm going to play this real quick because this was pretty funny and such a great and powerful montage.
Hear me out. If she's a grown adult woman who doesn't know that thunder comes from lightning.
And then my husband was like, you know that it can't thunder without lightning, right? That thunder is the sound of lightning. My mind was completely blown. I promise you, in my 35 years of living, I had never heard that.
If she doesn't know what temperature ice melts at, and if she can't pronounce any word over 2 syllables.
Hyperbolic, the architecture, an anecdote, grandoids, they are more satiating. The burrow of alcohol and tobacco, retired Green Beret, raspberry beret. There is something so reminiscent.
Then she's not a brilliant, brave, truth-telling homicide detective just asking questions. She's an illiterate, elbow-licking moron who needs Velcro shoes because laces are far too difficult.
Like I just said, had a vivid dream this weekend, and Charlie came to me and he told me that he was betrayed.
And so is anyone taking her seriously. Hear me out. If she's a grown adult woman.
All right. So I think that kind of sets the tone for what we're going to be talking about today. That is actually a much more serious topic. So
you ever see the accolades one that I just saw yesterday? That was the best one.
Accolades. It's accolades. Like I still can't get over macabre. I still like that is, it's like we all probably pronounce a word wrong every now and then, or maybe there's a one word or two in our vocabulary that we've just been pronouncing wrong and no one has ever corrected us for some reason, which which reminds me, apparently her assistant Savannah didn't know that thunder was the sound of lightning either. So it kind of explained everything to me. Like, how does this woman continue to say these stupid things? It's because, number one, she surrounded herself with a bunch of idiots as well. So, she is the chief idiot surrounded by other idiots that don't even know that accolades is supposed to be pronounced accolades, or that macabre is actually supposed to be pronounced macabre. So that's who we have on the case, Ryan. That is who is out there.
If she wasn't so arrogant, I'd cut her slack, right? Like that could be endearing.
Yeah.
But she lacks the self-awareness to realize she's trying to say she's like a credible intellectual figure. And then she's just like going on. She's like, I got to tell you guys, I never knew about thunder and lightning until recently. And you're like, that just shows the level of self-awareness that does affect your credibility as an analyst. Like, it's one thing to have to say something stupid and just admit something, but then like she's going on and expanding on it. And then she speaks with such arrogance. It's like here's a trick, folks. Like, if you're trying to decide whether to trust someone's analysis, look for humility. Like, the people that make the least amount of mistakes are the most humble ones. The ones that are most arrogant, so people think that they are have the highest rate of success because that's how they portray themselves. Those are usually ones that are big time wrong most frequently. It's a trick that like you apply that to your life, you'll see a difference.
And another prime example of this, of what to look for too, is if they ever admit that they're wrong. Look, we're all human beings, and we're going to get things wrong from time to time. And it's really important to go back and correct the record. Like, I've gotten things wrong. I'm sure you've gotten things wrong. Like, the moment that I get something wrong, like, hey, you know what? It's important to me that I go and say, hey, folks, I got this wrong, and I just want you to know this. And you know what? I did everything I could to make sure I didn't get that wrong, or maybe I didn't at that time. But we usually do pretty good due diligence in here. But we still get things wrong, and we get tricked by things on the internet. We all have. We've all posted memes, and then later on found out that that wasn't really representative of what was actually happening. Yeah. But it's important to go back there and correct the record. Man, she has a lot to correct the record on. And that's the biggest problem with all this that I have too. It's like, what happened to, you were so sure, and you had proof, you had sources telling you that the French actually planned the assassination of Charlie Kirk. What happened to that? Like, what happened to that? It's like all of these things that she put all of her eggs in the basket and said, look, trust me, bro, with, we have anonymous sources providing unverifiable information every single time. And then we launch an accusation at somebody, and then it's on them to prove their innocence. And we've completely turned like just logic and reason upside down. But we're getting into something much more nefarious. And there's a lot of us that have been saying, hey, all of this stuff is being pushed. And I posted several times today. Matter of fact, I'm going to just go back to this for just a moment here, because I think this is important too. I want you guys to see this. And I can find example after example of this on here. I want you to look right here. We have this guy, he says, she ain't listening to you, bro. She's got the largest account on YouTube to manage. Enjoy the hating, though. And he's from the UK. And I said, so many foreign accounts in my comments defending Candace, when you look at the profile, all they do is repost her and her surrogates, and their replies are all attacking anyone that oppose her. It's weird. And it is foreign account after foreign account. And of course, if you start getting into state-sponsored folks as well, whether you're talking about Russia, China, whoever, look, they definitely have the ability to create VPNs that are going to be undetectable by X, YouTube, and things like that. So they could be sitting there in Russia and definitely have a verified US account. And I think that's what we see is going on. And the problem is, we used to define these things by bots and then sock puppets. Sock puppets are typically real people that are managing 50 accounts that are doing the same thing, but they just make it all look more real. It's not just the same copy and paste. But the problem is now is we got AI. And folks, you better believe these people are investing heavily. Russia just dropped their military budget, folks. They're in the middle of one of the worst wars. They have over 1.2 million casualties, and they just dropped their military budget by like 30%, 750 billion or something. I don't remember the exact number, but they have increased their information operations and influence operations budget by like 57%. And now it's like $1.85 billion. And they understand that their return of investment is better doing this than it ever would through kinetic warfare. And that's why I've been stressing this. But, and we've been saying this, and a lot of it is, it's not really speculation because we can see what's happening. We can see that there's artificial boosting of these people. And then there are clear, operations to demoralize, these demoralization operations that are going against anyone that oppose certain people as well. But it's just really hard to prove, right? It's like we don't have the forensic capabilities, the electronic forensic capabilities to come out with, but it's clear, but it is very difficult to prove. But then all of a sudden we have Candace Owens that decides that she's going to take a family trip to Russia during a war when we have the State Department do not travel level 4 categorized as level 4, which is like, you're not going to, no sane person would take their family there. The only way that you would is that if you're getting a personal invitation from the Kremlin itself and you're going to be guaranteed your security. It's the only way that you would. And why would someone like Candace Owens, a podcaster, be going to Russia to the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, which is really nothing more than an information operations boot camp where they're going to talk about messaging. They're going to recruit people like Candace Owens. And like, she is the perfect recruit for this type of thing, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, and you just wait until tomorrow. It's fun, and when people watch tomorrow, they're gonna think I set you up to say that, because tomorrow, the second episode of my podcast is called "When the Bear Targeted TPUSA," and the reason I'm doing that is because I did the big reveal of some of the new information that we found about Candace's trip to Russia on episode 1, and we'll talk about it right now. But tomorrow, what we're going to be doing is looking at when it began. And the reason I got the idea to do it this way is because I realized that you don't understand all the evidence sufficiently and see the significance of all these little behavioral patterns, little words that she uses, defensive reactions to moments of insecurity. Like, it all seems like separate observations about her unless you look at it, not even from an investigative prosecutorial standpoint. Yet if you look at it as an influence operation, holistic, and you organize, you look at it differently, and so you can put, it's not just about criminal stuff, or it's about, you put all those data points chronologically and you look at what adds up. And if you go phase by phase through her history, Turning Point's history, it becomes clear that the stages of an influence operation, you can link it to what was going on all the way up until now, and that allows you to predict what's going to happen next, because there's still like another 2 phases to go to completion. And so when you say, was she the perfect recruit, I'm going to go over that tomorrow, over how this began, and very, very specifically what the Russians decided and how they decided to do it. And so it all kind of come together. And in the process, I think what's most satisfying to me is that this isn't really about Candace. Like, Candace is perfect as a magnet to talk about this topic and a teaching mechanism. But this is the best example I've ever come across to teach people about what an influence operation looks like, how to detect it, and most importantly, how to foil it. Because when she announced her little family vacation to Russia, and then within 24 hours, myself and 2 colleagues of mine who people see me interact with them on X, Restitutor and Eyepatch Man, when we discovered the true purpose of her trip that she did not disclose to the public, that backfired on the Russian, not just her, but the whole Russian influence operation completely, because they were teeing that up to craft the initial first impressions and headlines a certain way. Like, that's the most important point. We came out with the first impressions. We set the narrative, and it lasted a whole week. It was trending on X, which like never happens with a news story. And they ended up in a worse spot than when they began. And that, I don't know if I can think of another time that that's actually happened. And that was just because of people like yourself, me, and other people who are actually not getting paid to do this, just saying, I believe that civilians can do something here, and we did it. And we beat the Russian. I mean, we beat the Russian influence operation for that week, that specific mission. That was a big deal to them. Yeah.
Well, and I think there's a lot of people like you and I that see what's taking place, and we just can't stand by and do nothing. Like, that's my biggest, folks. Once I saw what Candace was doing in December, and I'll just tell you right now, in November, really, but my first video on her specifically was December 6th is when I released that. Once I initially saw what she was happening, and I started researching her her other episodes and going back in time and looking at what was being done, because I felt such a urgency because I saw what was being said. And I'll be honest with you, I, as bad as I thought it was, didn't predict it would get to this point, to where we're now including Russia, to where we're now overtly including Russia. Now we're including Tucker Carlson. All of a sudden, Buckley Carlson, his freaking weirdo brother, comes out of the woodwork that we've never heard before, and he's inserting himself in everything. We got John Mappin, we got Ian Carroll, we got people like Baron Coleman that are going out, and they're just lying. And they are this collective, coordinated mass of propaganda that their intent here is subversive, and it's to undermine the faith and institution of the United States. It's to undermine the faith in Donald Trump. And folks, like, I got a lot to criticize Donald Trump on. I absolutely think this MOU thing and this whole issue with Iran and the way that it looks like it's going down is trash. And I've expressed those, and I got a lot to say about that. That being said, we don't have any better options, folks. Like Donald Trump, the imperfect president, because there is no perfect one, but the imperfect person, the imperfect president that he is, and the Republican Party. This is where I might diverge a little bit with Ryan right here, but I'll just see the conservative movement is our last faith in, our last hope to preserve this country. It really is, because if the Democrats win the midterms, we will lose 2028. If we lose 2028, the courts will be packed. Like, we're not going to win any other, like Roe v. Wade is going to be overturned. We're going to have all kinds of issues when it comes to gun rights. They're going to put forward legislation with path to citizenship and voting rights for illegal immigrants. And by the way, the border is going to be open. Like, we're not going to have a country to save. So if these morons on the right, this woke right, think that they're going to, and I believe what they're trying to do is create an opposition party, let the Democrats win, and we're going to come back in. Like, there's nothing. We're never going to win another election. We're never going to win another election. Like, I do think this is a genuine existential threat, and I can't stress that enough. If they do half of what the Democrats are already telling you they're going to do, and folks, look at the elections that just took place in New York. My God, we have people that actually hate this country openly, that talk about it, that think it's okay for violence to overthrow the government. They talk about this, that are openly on the same side as the jihadis. Like, that's what they want. Like, we're not going to have a country left. And I think we're playing with fire. And I don't know, maybe that's ultimately what they want. Maybe I'm misreading their motivations. At least what they're selling is like, hey, we got to let them take it back so we can create an opposition party that's better than MAGA. I mean, that's kind of what they're selling to the woke right. There's nothing to do after that. But like we will never win another court case. They will overturn so much. They will insert activist judges at the federal level. Like, it's definitely concerning. Well, let's get into this a little bit. Ryan, let's talk about well, number one, this is a multi-part series for you. Like, explain to everybody kind of how you're laying this out. I know you've already released one part of this. Is this going to be a 2-part, a 3-part? Like, what does this look like for you?
So I'm not sure, because she keeps doing stuff and I keep finding out more things. And then there's a limitation in terms of time. And I'm going through some employment changes, income changes. So there's a lot of balls in the air. But I can easily see another few episodes just of this topic. Again, and I want to put it in the context of an influence operation, because once you see how this works, you're going to see it across other people. And these are the reason I called the first episode Cracking the Candace Code. It was because, aside from the fact that I love alliteration, is the fact that her behavior is a code. Like, and when you crack it, you just start picking up on a lot of things, all the different tells, how when she goes to do something where she's not being fully transparent, how her reaction is always she puts in a little bit too much information. Like, for example, when she announced she was doing the family vacation to Russia, it was actually on your show that we were looking at that announcement. I pointed out exactly where the deception started. She was all comfortable in making the announcement, and then you could just tell in the split second, she was like, that didn't forth real rapidly. And that's when she's like, and my husband, he's been to Russia a bunch of times because Europeans just do that. They just always travel everywhere, including Russia. And it was like, in that just like 3-second moment, you could tell you're like, there's something more there, and it has to do she's doubling down unnecessarily when she's not being challenged. Right. And when she is challenged, and you'll see this every time, it's all her thing. The subliminal message is, I'm not being proactive. I'm not doing anything I planned. I am always reactive. So Alexander Dugin, who we all suspected she would meet, maybe she met with him, I don't know, when she went to Russia. He was speaking at the same event as her. And she was like, I don't know him, but because of Zionist lore, I'm kind of interested in meeting him now. Now, that's obviously a lie. Yeah. But you will see that pattern over and over again, where it's always, if I'm doing something suspicious, it's not because I wanted to. It's not because I planned it. It's not connected to anything else that was planned. It's because my critics pushed me to do this thing that otherwise I wouldn't, and therefore it's not an anomaly. And every time you see that subliminal message, that means there's an anomaly. That means something. So you put that all together. That's a big part of the Candace code. And you start putting that together, and you put those data points, and you'll start to understand what she's trying to do, what things she's lying about, and it becomes very clear. And so you take those patterns, and then you compare it to what an influence operation looks like over a specific amount of time, and you combine those data points, and you get a very compelling story, but you get a manual for seeing it everywhere else in American civil society. And so that's kind of what I'm looking to achieve here. It's not just tell the story of Candace. I want to crack the Candace code, because that enables us to crack the code for all the other manipulations that are going on.
Perfect. Well, I'm just gonna turn the wheel over to you, man, and so you just take it away, and I'll jump in every now and then to I don't know, talk smack to you or ask you a question.
Yeah, sure. All right. So I went over this again in the first episode, but I was also sick as hell. So there's like 3 points where you almost see me throw up live on air. So that was my big podcast debut. I appreciate all the comments I got in regards to that. So hopefully I'll do a better job this time. But basically, so I'm debating whether I build up to the headline or I start with the headline. I guess I'll just start with it since it's out there. So my theory has been, it's been this for a while before she even went to Russia. Because I looked at what her options were when she's getting sued. Because if you look at Alex Jones, which is a pretty comparable example, she's facing losing everything. And that's got to be terrifying for her family. I can't imagine what George Farmer's family thinks of her with all this going down. And the only option, every single time, every single way I played this out, and every single theory I attacked to say, like, what is her most likely option, what's her smartest option, what's her only option, kept coming back down to the option of getting safe harbor in Russia, defecting, and moving some of her assets there, but probably the chunk of it to Dubai. And that's based on the patterns I see with Russian oligarchs, with people in similar situations. And it's simply, if you study how these things go, that's by far the best option. It's the most obvious option. Nothing else really comes close. Some people will say, well, what about offshore accounts? That's kind of old now. Over the past decade, the laws have changed. There's a lot more U.S. cooperation that will happen from time to time with offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands and these other places. So that used to be like the simple thing that you did. Now you can still do it. But if you're a high profile figure like she would be, it's not reliable enough. The Russia-Dubai option is just a lot better. It might be Russia only, but I think it's probably Russia and Dubai.
Now, what protections does Dubai have that maybe, because I'm definitely not aware of what their financial structure is and how it's able to isolate any probing from the United States?
Sure. So they have fewer agreements with the United States and the European Union than some other countries do, but they do have some now. So it's gotten a little bit tougher. But it's still, like, you can see in open source information, the fact that the Russian oligarchs were there, the Iranian regime did the bulk of their illicit transactions through Dubai. And that's why it was such a big deal during Operation Epic Fury, when Iran very stupidly kept lobbing missiles at UAE and UAE shut them down. in Dubai specifically. That was a big thing because a lot of Iranian money was there, and Iran decided to throw missiles at it, which gives you an idea of just how smart and rational that regime is. But if the Iranian regime is openly doing this, the Russian oligarchs are doing this, most importantly, Andrew and Tristan Tate are doing this, then it's obviously a viable option because I should have sent you the video. There's an actual video of Tristan where he is on giving like a Facebook-based interview to somebody, or I saw it on Facebook. There's a podcast, and he's openly saying, look, we spend like 9 figures and nobody knows where our money is. We don't pay taxes because we know how to hide our assets. And there's a lot of quotes of them openly talking about this, and they will say Dubai is the best place to do it. And that's where they primarily operate from now. Since they left Romania, they came to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. They moved to Dubai, and that's their operating spot now. And they openly say like they invest in property there. That's a good way to hide their assets, and they make a lot of money investing in property there. It is a good spot to invest. It's also really good if you're into cryptocurrency. There's either no or very little capital gains tax on cryptocurrency investments and most other investments, I think, for foreigners that go there. So it makes financial sense. Some of George Farmer's closest friends, Andrew and Tristan Tate, a friendship which we still don't know how that began and what maintained it. Because if I was ever friends with Andrew and Tristan Tate, and I think I probably never would have been, but let's just say I was because like we went to school together and like just somehow hung out and became friends, it wouldn't last long, not with everything that they're doing. So there's some story there about how that friendship began, why it keeps going, why they never share little anecdotes about them hanging out. It's just a black hole of information. So Dubai makes a lot of sense according to the people that she met with. And I guess I'll throw this in here. So the event that she spoke at in Russia, it was shocking because of the information that I released about how it's organized by Russian intelligence and Putin's top advisors and how it's used specifically, according to investigative documents. The panels they put together, one of the purposes is to recruit Westerners, specifically influencers involved in media. And they put Candace on a panel there. Like, it's very clear what that's about. But the other thing that I wish I had emphasized more is the fact that it is the most secure location you can go to in Russia year-round that isn't inside of an official government building, which you wouldn't want to do in this situation with American and Ukrainian intelligence. Like, it's not what you want to do. What you want to do is have a big event where there's lots of people that's on total lockdown, and so you can kind of like move in and out easily. You have an excuse to be there because you're speaking there, so nothing looks like an anomaly when you meet with an oligarch or whoever.
It gives them control of the space, but without exposing them to vulnerabilities. Because you better believe there's Russia, like every intelligence entity out there has people there trying to gather intelligence also on Russia and people within the Russian government for sure. Like that's
right, but Putin's there. So the Secret Service has it on lockdown. All the VIPs are there. So all Russian resources for security and counterintelligence congregate at that spot. So if there was one spot you wanted to have secret meetings in, it would either be at that event or in the surrounding area of St. Petersburg when it's going on. Now, guess who arrived from Dubai while Candace Owens was in St. Petersburg unannounced? And like, it was Andrew and Tristan Tate. They arrived and they did a propaganda tour just like she did after she did it. But more importantly, they arrived from Dubai. I mean, like, look at these data points lining up. They arrived from Dubai while the conference is going on. They're not booked to even speak at the conference. Russian propaganda outlets, like on Telegram, say, this is a really bad idea. Like, referring to the Russian government, like, we don't want to be associated with this, guys. This is a terrible idea. But they were doing something so important, requiring them to be there in the same area as Candace Owens at the exact same time at the most secure location, that it warranted Russia going against the advice of their top propagandists in allowing them to go there and do this propaganda tour. So,
and for people that didn't see this, like the Tates were actually going to the Spetsnaz different ranges. They were actually out there firing many different weapons. Like this was a propaganda tour through and through. This was a I don't know, content creators' wet dream, and they were there to help them out and get them content.
Well, if you're a giant douchebag, it is, yeah,
exactly. If you're willing to sell out the rest of the world for Russian propaganda, then it's absolutely fine. But
even if they were patriots, they're really douchey though. Yeah. Like, I mean, they're the most unlikable SOBs I've ever seen, and most honestly most feminine and insecure. like they're overcompensating is unbelievable. But anyway, so you have the exact people, like not just the Russian oligarchs, but you have the people closest to Candace and George who openly know and are successfully doing the hiding of assets, meet with her on a trip that I believe is preparation for her to move to Russia and hide her assets. They're meeting in unannounced meeting at the most secure location in Russia year round. I mean, you put the piece together and you can see why I got comfortable publicly broadcasting my theory that I had before, because I was like, it's rare that I have a theory and things come together that neatly and that clearly. And they sure did. So we have that element there. Oh, and then you look in the past, because it still seems a little like Candace doesn't go to Dubai as far as we know, right? But then I looked at some of her tweeting in the past, and there's this really interesting post where she's not like a foreign policy buff, right? So she probably doesn't care about relations between the UAE and France. I don't think that's the type of thing that she Googles or pays much attention to. But there's this really weird X post where she is reacting to the fact that the UAE canceled a contract for fighter jets with France because they were mad at the French arresting the head of Telegram. Mm-hmm. Not exactly in, the type of thing Candace typically pays attention to.
Sure.
But she sees it, and how'd she react to it? Not just with, oh, that's good. Like if you agree with that and for some reason you're suddenly spontaneously passionate about UAE French relations, you might say, okay, I agree with that. Her reaction was, wow, might be time to move to Dubai. Like that's a tell if I've ever seen one. It's that doesn't fit the type of compliment you give in that context. So that's an anomaly that she tried to make look not as an anomaly. And now we know, because she said this when she got back from Russia, she goes, we're going on another family vacation, guys. And she goes, and she doesn't mention the country. And she goes, and we're going to do it in about a month. And I bet people will have something to say about that too. So she's already setting it up, by not disclosing the name of the country, there's something there. And she's saying, I bet people are going to say something about that too, meaning it's going to be significant in regards to that new country and Russia. And she still hasn't disclosed what that country is, but she should be going on that vacation, according to her timeline, within the next couple of weeks. If it's Dubai, you can consider my theory to be close to 100% proven, because it lines up too much. The behavior patterns with the chronology of how this all has to go. And in response to your question about moving assets with Dubai, it's legal to set up LLCs there. So if she starts closing LLCs and starts moving things like her intellectual property to new LLCs that are in UAE, which rich people do that a lot. It's legal. But if that's somehow detected, or the dissolution could be detected on the US side if she dissolves it. She might just set up something new in UAE. But she could be doing that. But if you research like how to reestablish yourself, at least just your assets, if not your residence in Dubai, you might be able to get away with doing it all remotely. But if you want to be secure, you're not going to. And I'm not even sure you could really pull it off. Like they really want you to go there and meet with the bank and do a bunch of things in person. So if my theory was correct, I would have told you before her Russia trip. I said there's got to be at least one, probably two short trips to Russia. And there's got to be at least one short trip to UAE. And it's got to be within a compressed timeline for this to all work. And what we're seeing.
Let's be real with this. So like she could also be having attorneys do this. She doesn't necessarily have to go there physically.
Well, they want the biometrics and everything, and the personal IDs and everything. So, like Russia, they require medical exams. There's actually a lot of in-person stuff that you got to do for both parts of this plan.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
well, that's interesting to know. Because I mean, like, there's nothing that she's doing now that she couldn't just do straight from Dubai or Russia. By the way, I mean, she can upload a YouTube video or do a live YouTube video from Dubai, and there's nothing that she's covering that, like, she doesn't ever leave her basement chair in front of the camera,
right?
Like she has to go out and do any investigative work. She's not going to go to UVU. She's not going to go like in person and do any sort of interviews with anybody, because that would end up ruining the narratives, and she doesn't want to do that. She likes to make sure that her narratives are very isolated, that she has full control of it. She doesn't want any outside influence that could possibly damage the credibility of those narratives that she's creating out of thin air. So, everything that she's doing here in the United States, she could definitely do from Dubai. So I can completely see this taking place.
Yeah. Now here's the other pieces. As this starts lining up, you're almost going to laugh at how obvious this all becomes. So before she announced the family vacation to Russia, which, by the way, she claims that was all last minute, and she doesn't realize that that's a tell even in of itself. And here's why. Because even though she's lying about that, I can show you on the timeline. It makes no sense. She's lying. But even if it is last minute, depending on how you define last minute, that's not so good for her either. Because she first announced she was going to St. Petersburg in general, not the family vacation. She just said, I love Russia. I'm determined to go. I really want to go to St. Petersburg. I'm doing it. She said that March 4th in reaction, I think it was March 4th, in reaction to a Newsmax segment I did where I was calling her out for her ties to Russia and how Russia and Iran's propaganda outlets amplify her, which they did. So she responds back to me, giving me the exact gift that I wanted, and then the outlets amplified her just like I said. And somehow that's supposed to be a denial of what I said was going on. But she says, I'm going to St. Petersburg. I think it was like March 4th or something, May 4th, whatever it was. But it came about 5 days after Brian Harpole filed the lawsuit. So Brian Harpole files the lawsuit 5 days later. And remember what I said, how she blames everything on one of her critics. So I believe the lawsuit was filed. She was already thinking, all right, I got to look at that Russia option. I attack her on Newsmax. And she makes it, and she's like, all right, she had to start setting the pretext anyway, right then, saying, all right, I need to make it look like it's natural for me to go to Russia. Oh, here's how I'll announce it. I'll respond to David Harris Jr. and Ryan and say in this context, because she just needed the moment as quick as possible. She thought that was it. She goes, all right, I'm going to St. Petersburg. And then shortly after that, she announces a family vacation to Russia, doesn't announce that she's speaking at St. Petersburg. And then the story she tells is that she submitted a request to interview Vladimir Putin, which she does every year, she claims. That might be true. And then the Russians were like, sorry, we can't let you interview Putin. But check out this event that's going to be going on right when you're there. And if you just stay a little bit longer, so we're supposed to believe she's going to Russia for 3 days, 4 days. She's like, if you just expand your vacation a little bit longer, you can go to that event. And then it turns out, we can accommodate you speaking there. And of course, that's a lie because I found the advertisement for her speaking there before she even left America. But the point is that you put all that together, you see how it's being scripted, and that process all began 5 days after the Brian Harpole lawsuit, which most people say is a bigger threat to her than even what the Macrons are doing.
Yeah.
The timeline is tough.
We've had the beard lawyer on here multiple times and talking about it, and he's convinced that even the other YouTuber, I forgot his name, that was just sued, I think, for $19 million or something like that in Tennessee, in Nashville, by the way. He thinks that Brian Harpole has a much stronger case than even he had, the people that were suing that YouTuber. So I think this is very different. And I think she realizes she's going to lose this. And there's everything that Brian Harpole needs, the fact that she hid exculpatory information from her viewers while she was sitting on it, that indicates malice. The different things that she says that he definitely was involved in this. And as a matter of fact, he was so involved in this that it's proof that he was involved in it because he wasn't involved in setting up any additional security plans for Charlie's next location. The accusations are clearly there. The malice is clearly there, and her being completely irresponsible with that information is clearly there. I think it's pretty obvious that she's going to lose that case, hands down.
All right, so then that definitely strengthens it. Now before I get to there's some more reveals with that's going to bring that home, but because you said that, there's something else to throw in there. There's a precedent here. So if you want to know someone's behavior, especially the government, you look at the example that's the closest comparison, like you just did. To say, all right, well, is she going to lose? Let's look at the closest example. And that is the closest example in terms of the outcome of the case. But there's another closest example for Candace specifically, and that's that of Natasha Ray. Natasha Ray is the originator of the Brigitte Macron conspiracy theories. Now, when Russia does propaganda, they seed things, meaning they put a little kernel out there, and then they hope conspiracy theorists elaborate on it. They adopt it, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, just like how a lie does. And Natasha Ray was one of the like two people who originated the conspiracy theories, and then it eventually goes to someone else and it ends up with Candace. The Macron sued Natasha Ray. And it turns out Natasha Ray loves Vladimir Putin, which raises questions about where this whole thing began. Because Russia's propaganda was right on it. Like as soon as the Macron conspiracy, because they hate the Macron. So as soon as that started, now we know it originated with a Putin supporter, makes you wonder where it all began. But so the Macron sue her, and the Macrons initially win. It then gets overturned. But when they win, what happens? She starts filing openly, and Russia says, filing for political asylum with Russia, and Russia says, we'll accept you. And Natasha Ray starts saying things like, Russia is a great Christian country. It has superior traditional values than France and the West does. All the same things that Candace says. So the closest example, she's getting sued by the Macrons on the same basis that Candace is getting sued. And what happens? She starts saying these certain Russian propaganda lines and files for asylum to Russia. She hasn't gone there yet because it got overturned, so she wants to fight it out a little bit longer. But that's the closest script. So that alone would tell you that's probably what's going to happen. But why was she praising Russia in that particular way? Why wasn't it just, oh, I agree with invading Ukraine, Putin's wonderful? Why with those specific nouns and verbs and adjectives in that order? Here's why. And this is part cracking the Candace code. So on August 19, 2024, Putin put out decree number 702. And it's basically about Russia's ideological warfare, the things that they have to fight internally and externally. And part of that, I think it's paragraph 4, is for the shared values visa. The Putin's shared values visa, and this is a centerpiece of Russian propaganda right now, is for persecuted Westerners in about 40 countries that have what they call destructive neoliberal ideologies. Basically people who are being persecuted by the woke, the globalists, the Satanists are persecuting the true conservative Christians in these countries. And guess who's on that list? The United States and the UK. So that explains partially why they can't go to UK, aside from the fact that even with a lawsuit, the assets could still be targeted in the UK, but this adds an additional reason. So 2024, Putin puts out this decree to make it extra easy to harbor Westerners who need to get out, and specifically need to get out while claiming to be persecuted by the libs for telling the truth, for being a truth teller.
Well, let's read this so people know. So I have it right here. The 702
Perfect.
Executive Order of the Russian President, number 702 of August 2024, applies to the persons who would like to move to Russia due to rejection of the policies implemented by the countries of their citizenship that impose destructive ideological attitudes contradicting traditional Russian spiritual and moral values set forth in the fundamentals of state policy. We always love state policy that's dictating our moral and spiritual values for the preservation and strengthening of traditional Russian spiritual and moral values. The Russian government has passed the resolution with a list of countries which citizens may use to options provided by the order. The United Kingdom is included in that list. The United States is included in that list as well. The benefits provided by order will allow applying for temporary resident permit without passing the exam in Russian language and the Russian history and law beyond the immigrant quota set forth by the government for each region of Russia. This will simplify the receipt of temporary residence permits. At the same time, please note the Russian government does not provide immigrants arriving in Russia under this order with any accommodation, job, social payments, traveling expenses, or relocation allowances. So there we go. They have that carve out set for basically disenchanted Americans and other people in Europe, primarily. So there you go.
So to qualify for it, part of it is making a written declaration that you are adopting Russian traditional and moral spiritual values. But if you look at the longer decree, like what this was a part of, where it goes into much more detail about what Russia believes and what beliefs it has to promote and which ones they have to fight against, it's much more detailed than that. It's much more comprehensive. Now, there's people like Tucker out there. Well, I guess that's a bad example. There's people who are pro-Russia and they'll do it by like saying, oh, Russia was right to invade Ukraine. Like that, like it's a lot softer. But you'll notice Candace's posts when she was doing her little tour around Russia, which I have something that I just revealed about that in a moment. What was she complimenting? How the accommodations for children, how you can raise children there. how Starbucks has knockoffs there. So it's really all the sorts of advertisement that you need to do that is paralleled in other Russian propaganda about how it is comfortable for Americans and Westerners to move there. So she's fully integrated into that propaganda line, advertising this visa. But more importantly, what is she saying and not saying? Everything she said, almost as if you're checking the boxes off, are the exact lines in that longer explanation of what Russia said its beliefs are and what needs to be promoted in order for this shared values visa to make sense for someone. So she was auditioning, and the things that she wasn't saying, like there's a bunch of things that Russia says are also threats, like anything with nuance. Like, did she say something like, oh, I think Russia did this bad thing over its history, or I like Russia, but they need to work on this? No, none of that is there. Why? I mean, for the sake of her credibility, she has every incentive to do that, unless her goal is not to violate the application process for this visa. So she's saying the things that you have to say in order to qualify under it. She's not saying the things that would disqualify her under it. And now here's the kicker. Here's what I released last week. She had some meetings that she did not disclose that we found out about. And it makes sense as to why the trip was so short and where she stayed and who she traveled with. She openly admits that she stayed with someone who was an American with 8 children, a traditional Catholic in Moscow. Let me see if I got the name. So the strongest match, and we know that she was with this individual regardless, but it seems like she actually stayed with, which, by the way, it fits influence operations, what I'm about to describe. You always have them stay with someone who is, you can deny that they're part of the Russian government, but they are part of the Russian government. That's what you do. That, not a hotel. You have them stay with a private individual. So she stays with this Catholic American family in Moscow with 8 children. The strongest match for that is Joseph Schutzman. He has an X account, home in Russia, right on the nose. However, he says he is Texan, which contradicts Candace. So maybe she just made another error, which is kind of what you would come to expect from her. So that may not be purposeful, or it might be a misdirect. But whatever the case may be, she meets with this guy. And on the trip, her pictures are being taken by this other guy, Eddie Gonzalez, who used to be in law enforcement in Texas and then moved to Russia. Eddie Gonzalez and Joseph Schutzman co-host a YouTube channel. What's it called? I think it's Home in Russia or Up Close with Russia, something like Russia Up Close. She doesn't appear on that YouTube channel. They don't appear on hers. Isn't that a little weird? I mean, if this is a working vacation where she's doing media, then the people are nice enough to host you. Wouldn't you at least go on their show? No, and they don't go on hers. So that's too much. But they're affiliated with an entity. They advertise on their YouTube channel their interviews with people from a specific entity. There's an advertisement in the description box for a specific entity. And it's called the OKA Agency. What is that company? They specialize in moving people, especially Americans, to Russia altogether, but including permanently under this decree. I mean, that's remarkable. And so Eddie Gonzalez, he goes by the X name of Moscow Photographer, which I don't have to tell you this. Like, in terms of intelligence and like doing this type of thing, like, what is it? It's like journalist, reporter, and like photographer, and owning a travel agency are like the 3 most obvious covers where you're like we know what you're doing. So he's taking pictures of her. She doesn't actually need a photographer, but that's her tour guide. As she's going around. So she's staying with this company, traveling around with them, including going to the super secure spot where Russian intelligence is. The Tates come in, the experts in asset shifting, who are doing their own propaganda tour, and this all happens at once. She also meets with some other people. Oh, by the way, that company assures 100% confidentiality guaranteed. So it's significant that they never disclose these meetings between the company and her. Why? Because it has to be done in person. I mean, if you're a Russian entity, you can't have 100% confidentiality guaranteed unless those meetings are happening in person. So it makes sense that this was a short trip suddenly, right? It was weird before. Now it makes sense. that company is also affiliated with someone. I'll be interested in the comment section if anyone knows who this is. Maria Butina. Does that anybody know who this is?
Never heard of him before.
It's a woman. So Maria Butina is a Russian spy who in 2018 was arrested. What was her job? Infiltrating the conservative movement and Republican Party. She got arrested and pled guilty. She gets deported, goes to Russia. Russia gives her a job at RT, which is probably what they'll offer Candace. It's a similar profile. And then she becomes elected to the Russian parliament. And that's her, Maria Butina. And now what does Maria Butina do? She has an organization called Welcome to Russia that recruits Americans and Westerners and facilitates them moving and traveling to Russia, but especially moving under this decree.
I do remember this because she was attached to the NRA. I remember this specifically.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. I didn't remember her name, but the FBI counterintelligence agents have arrested a 29-year-old Russian woman on charges she acted as a Kremlin agent while working over the past 3 years to build relationships in the upper ranks of the NRA. Maria Butina, the co-founder of the mysterious Russian gun rights group called Right to Bear Arms, who recently graduated with a master's degree from American University, took steps to develop relationships with American politicians in order to establish private, or as she called them, back channel lines of communications. These lines can be used by the Russian Federation to penetrate U.S. national decision-making apparatus to advance the agenda of the Russian Federation. So you guys can go do some additional research on her, but I do remember her specifically. She was kind of going through the NRA, which, by the way, folks, and I think most of you know, I mean, everybody, the executives in the NRA, Wayne LaPierre and the like, you know, these people have very close relationships with most of the Republican lawmakers in Washington, and they are regularly getting, you know, closed door meetings with these people.
That's right. So Maria Butina is the perfect person for this program. And the entity that the Russians said to her, like, that gives you an idea of just how important this is to them, that they pick her when she's back in Russia. They say, all right, you know what you need to do? You need to oversee this decree and getting Americans and Westerners to come. And her organization has an official partnership with the OKA agency. She appears on their show a lot. And so the company that Candace is staying with and doing the tour with on this very deceptive, secretive tour is associated with Maria Butina. I mean, come on. And then there's one more person that she meets with. And we found this on Instagram. On June 1st, he posted a picture. Pietro Stramezzi is an Italian Russian. He has associations with Alexander Dugin. And he was the leader of the youth wing for an organization whose leader, so his boss, was part of a coalition with, so directly tied to, because it's like there'll be one front and then another front, and it sounds like it's guilt by association, but it's actually not. It's all one thing. So this guy, Pietro Stramezzi, who I just mentioned, who Candace meets with, and the picture was posted on Instagram, he's one of the faces for this visa program to get Americans and Westerners to go there, particularly for Italians, but he's also associated with Alexander Dugin. And then he led the youth wing of an organization whose leader is tied to a group called the Russian Imperial Movement. The Russian Imperial Movement is a designated foreign terrorist organization based in Russia. So she is meeting with someone who had a senior position in a group linked to a designated foreign terrorist organization that was used by Russia to train terrorists, Nazis, fascists, people who did attacks in Europe. But more importantly, politically, their task was to unify the pro-Russia conservatives in Europe with the pro-Russia conservatives in America, going back to like 2015 and even probably earlier than that. So the three people so far, and there'll be another one, that we found she met with that she didn't quite make a big deal of, was Joseph Schutzman. That's who she stayed with. Eddie Gonzalez, his co-host. Those are the two individuals that are part of OKA agency that's linked to Maria Butina, whose job it was. She's the expert in infiltrating the American conservative movement. The third person is Pietro Stramezzi, who I just mentioned, another person who advertised the visa program, associated with Dugin, associated with an organization linked to Russian terrorists. And then the fourth one, and this one really wasn't announced, probably because it was just a little bit too much. The video that Pietro, the Italian, posts showing off that he met with George Farmer and Candace. There's like a little event, and he says that he hosted them. I think hosting them meaning like held an event for them, maybe not like they stayed at his place. They might have, but it might have just meant an event. You look at the video of it, the video pans, and I haven't looked up each person in there. Maybe some people out there can help me do that because I just haven't had the time. But there was one guy who stuck out, and they didn't make a point of him being there, which is significant. Again, an anomaly that he's there and an anomaly that you're not mentioning this guy. His name is Steven Seagal. Now, here's why that's significant. Aside from the fact that it's not kind of funny, just because it's Steven Seagal with his ponytail and all that. He moved to Russia before this decree was even established because he found himself in financial trouble, like avoiding taxes. He moved his assets to Russia. Putin gave him citizenship because Putin was a fan of his. And so he did the same thing that Candace was doing only earlier on, but he also screwed up a little bit because he left some of his assets with his manager in the US. And I guess he didn't realize that the court orders that go after your assets could go after his manager and the manager's entity because his assets were in there, even though it wasn't under his name. And so he lost a little bit of that. So I guess he has some advice to give probably Candace and the Tates if he met with the Tates. I mean, he spoke at the same event as Candace, but that's someone who, if you're Candace Owens, you would want to meet with, and you'd also want to probably not tell too many people. But we already knew they were in St. Petersburg at the same time, speaking at the same event. But I thought Candace probably couldn't resist the temptation to really like brag. You know, like, oh, I'm with Steven Seagal, and that Russia would probably want to put them together but for the propaganda value. But no, I had to catch him in a quick few seconds in this video at that event with this Petro Stremezi guy, this private event. And so that's a fourth guy that she at least was in the same room with. And that's very telling. That's a guy who's done the trip, who made some mistakes and can offer some advice. And you put all this together. I mean, that's why I had to do a whole podcast, because I know I just talked like an insane amount, but that's the only way to line up all these data points, because you think I'm at one smoking gun and then I got another and then another and another. And then you put it all together and you're like, man, this is obvious. And the people who are saying, some people are saying, I'll pay for the tickets for her to leave permanently. This is why it's not funny. I mean, it is funny, but
I'm still chipping in. I don't care what you say. Whatever comes after what you're good, I will still pay the money. Let's go.
So here's where it is not so funny. Russia has never, Tokyo Rose from World War II,
sure,
who was the American who the Japanese used as a propaganda person to basically audibly torture American troops with propaganda.
Yeah.
In the entire history of the Cold War in Russia, they've never had anyone, even I would say half of 1%, as effective, as famous, as powerful as Candace Owens. And her audience will follow her. So when they establish whichever way they want to broadcast, once I believe she moves there long-term and then permanently or however she does it, there's two ways she could do it. She could do it with a business visa and then go through the shared values visa, or she could do the shared values visa from the beginning. It depends on a few different things. Doesn't matter. But I think if she loses the lawsuit, she's ending up there. I mean, there's too much lines up. So what does Russia do with that? What does she do with that? She would rather die than give up her show, right? So she's going to have a show. Russia's going to want to invest in that. They've already put bots and done things to expand her audience. Now they're going to be in a position to do it more. They're going to get a bigger bang on their investment. What she's going to do from Russia is launch and take part in an unprecedented, and I believe massively successful ideological war on America, specifically targeting conspiracy theorists, the seditionists, but also Christians and Americans. The Russian propaganda is already propping her up as a religious authority, a journalist, and her husband as a theologian. So I see they've already written the damn script. I already see exactly what they're going to do when this happens. They're already rolling out the red carpet and preparing the way. And when that happens, her audience is going to follow her. They've never had that. They've never had someone with her skill, someone with her audience that will follow her. Their biggest challenge is just going to be transferring her audience in case she's shut off from income from YouTube and elsewhere, and maybe TikTok. YouTube will shut her off. X, she might still be able to get money from, but they use Stripe. So unless Elon Musk changes that, and he might, then X is out. But she can do what Jackson Hinkle and these other people have done. She'll have a show on Telegram, or she'll use Rumble, or she'll use, more likely, I think, at least maybe she'll do both. Maybe she'll use those, but then also use Russia's official platforms. When she lures in millions of Westerners into the Russian propaganda outlet, it's not just about being exposed to her working for the Russians. They're now part of that whole network, that ecosystem. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be bad. And that's why I'm hoping that a judge somehow stops this.
Yeah. So, regardless, she's a extremely powerful asset to Russia. So even if she is cut off from all income, they're going to be taking good care of her, replacing that income for whatever she might do in Russia. And I just want to point out to everybody kind of the larger picture of this. It's not just Candace Owens. We're seeing a lot of this propaganda that has become extremely pervasive all throughout. It started off with Tucker Carlson with his interview with Putin, which at the time I was a huge Tucker Carlson fan. I found that whole thing so odd. And it was just one of those things where it's like, I still agreed with Tucker. I made a lot of excuses for him during that interview and was like, yeah, I don't agree with the way that he's glazing Russia, but maybe he's having to do that just to get the interview with Putin. It wasn't until much later that I realized the direction that he was going. But I want to show you this real quick, folks. This is Jimmy Dore on none other than Tucker Carlson. I've played this before, but I think this is really important for us to see what's happening and how these people are just lying about Russia.
Well, my response to it was, how dare we, preach democracy around the world and tell people that the people in China are oppressed when we obviously don't have democracy here. In China, the government sits above capital.
Yes.
And so the economy works for the people. But in the United States, capital is above the government. And so the economy doesn't work for the people. It works for a handful of international globalist billionaires, which is why we have homelessness everywhere. We have the biggest prison population in the world. And, we still go bankrupt just to get educated. You get bankrupt when you get sick. And like I say is that we live in a surveillance state. And so we're like China, except we have more street crime and slower trains.
And we get lectured constantly in the most self-righteous way by the worst people.
Well, my response to it was, how dare we, preach.
And he goes on, folks. He goes on to talk about and sell the idea that Russia has more democracy than the United States. And so I did a quick breakdown of this just through Grok. And I said, America isn't perfect, but China is better. Narrative is selective demoralization. Facts show the U.S. system delivers far superior individual freedom and opportunity. This clip is Jimmy Dore, and he says about China and Russia, by the way, both of these. Key claims, your vote literally doesn't matter. It's just proof that we don't live in a democracy. China's system works for the people. America's doesn't. This framing is misleading. Why it's wrong. Competitive elections, independent courts, free press, strong civil liberties, peaceful power transfers, voters regularly remove incumbents. China has a one-party CCP dictatorship. No free national elections, no opposition to parties, heavy censorship, government above capital in China. And I go on to talk about this. And then and I think I actually have a completely different clip where it's just isolating Russia. But the fact is when it comes to personal freedom indices, when it comes to economic mobility in the United States versus Russia or China, when it comes to religious freedom in Russia versus China, there's such a disparity and it's such a big gap between the United States for someone to go on, especially sitting in front of Tucker. And Tucker never challenges this. He just sits there and bobs his head like a retarded bobblehead doll in animation, saying, you're absolutely right, 100% true. It's so demonstrably false, and it's not just Candace Owens. It's not just Jimmy Dore. There's a lot of folks out there pushing these pro-Russia, pro-China narratives, and we should start to see what's going on. And I don't care if you like Candace. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. It is okay to be critical of your government, and we should be. We should hold them accountable. But when you see an obvious thing where these people are taking these dictatorships and they're saying this is better than the United States, when every metric, independent metrics, it's not Gary saying, it's not a Republican talking point. These things are measurable. And it's true. Do you think Do you think that if we had some sort of program like this for Russians to come to the United States, like we'd be filled with Russians? I'm telling you right now. So we need to understand what's happening. There is this anti-American propagandist movement that's going on right now that I've never seen before. And when you're constantly lying about the government, when you're constantly getting it wrong about what the United States is doing, what Trump is doing, what MAGA is doing, and these are clear, defined lies, you're no longer just being a critical citizen. You're being a foreign propagandist. And all of these people are traitors. All of these people are absolute traitors. That's what they are. And I'm not going to mince words with that. They are everything that this country was built upon. The people that died for this country, men and women that I've served with that are no longer here, that bled for this country, not to mention the millions others from the Revolutionary War, Civil War, War of 1812, Vietnam War, World War I, World War II. These people that died for this country to make it what it is, these people are spitting on all of them. And I can't stay silent. And I'm telling you right now, I don't get paid. This costs me more than you will ever know. This costs me so much, and it's worth it. And, you know, look, truth isn't always popular, but it's always worth it. And I know that's exactly what Ryan's doing. Most of the stuff he is doing completely uncompensated. I am completely, I haven't even taken on it. I have people contact me for, you know, to sponsor the channel all the time. And it feels weird to me. And I sure as hell ain't going to take money from TPUSA or freaking Israel or all these other things that people claim that I'm doing. I'm just telling you, you're full of shit. You're wrong. And you don't have to like it. You don't even have to believe me. I don't care. Anyways, back to you, Ryan.
No, that's absolutely true. I'm going through my notes here because I just kind of wanted to give a few of the lines that Russia was basic, because a lot of people just quote from the decree itself saying that you have to reject destructive neoliberal values, which I don't think Candace has actually said that line. But again, you can just do it in a written declaration. But especially if you're a mother and you want to guarantee acceptance, you got to do this audition. You know, you got to show, look, I'm going to hit all the boxes, say everything, and not say the things that disqualify me. So when you go through her ex posts on this now and in the future, the most like obnoxiously over the top Russia stuff where you're like, man, that really stands out. You're going to see it's almost like word for word from here. And it also matches. I forgot to mention this. So the same week that she arrives in Russia for the St. Petersburg event and does this whole thing, one of my colleagues, Restitutor on X, who helped me a lot with this, he decided to look on YouTube and he looked at the English language Russian propaganda videos that went up advertising to people to move or visit Russia as tourists. A lot of which were guys saying how all these hot Russian women approach them as soon as you arrive. Oh, I can't believe it. I'm a stud here. Like very obvious stuff. But a lot of it was just about making the point that for an American or a Westerner, but especially American, it's comfortable if you go there. So they have videos that are saying, look, the trains are futuristic and modern, which again is another propaganda line that appears in these standards. Here's why it's good for your children. If you move here, you don't have to worry about the discomfort of like children having to adjust. If you look at the things that Candace was saying, there's like these oddball things where she says something like, oh, all you idiots thought you couldn't use credit cards in Russia because like sanctions prevent American credit card companies from being there. So a lot of people say, well, what do I do about money? That's a legitimate thing that if you want to go to Russia, you have to contend with. And she's out there publicly posting, and she doesn't post like every half hour, keep in mind. So percentage wise of what she's saying, like it's very significant. And she's like, in Russia, they have their own credit card companies. I came here. It's real easy. So the credit card thing is solved. There's one where she says everything is exactly the same as in the United States, but better. And that also comes in when she posts pictures of these knockoffs of Starbucks. And she says, look, all the American brands that are sanctioned, so you wouldn't think that they're here and they taste the exact same. Like she systematically, maybe she came up with that on her own, but if she did, then she read what the standards were for what Russia's propaganda points are and decided herself to say it. More likely it was a script. I mean, she had a tour guide bringing her around to these spots and some of the language just doesn't really sound like her. There's a little bit of her in it, but like it just doesn't seem to fit. So she was advertising not just going to Russia, but she's also saying it's comfortable if you move there, because she wants to, again, she's trying to eliminate any sense that what she's doing is an anomaly. So she wants the audience to say, oh, I didn't realize Russia's so comfortable. Then when she spends more time there, then when she ultimately moves there, it doesn't seem like an anomaly, but all that weirdness fits in these standards that I was talking about that this decree falls under. So for example,
real quick, while you're talking,
Yes.
I just want everybody to know what's happening here. So I decided to go to RT, which is Russia Today. It's state-sponsored Russia media account on X. And I just put in Candace Owens. And I just want you to see how much, so I'm just going to go through, I probably won't stop in any of these, but how often they retweet Candace Owens content. It is absolutely insane.
Yeah. So some of the things here, they're talking about things that they want to advance and things they want to combat. So if it sounds confusing, that's what I'm reciting here. Basically, they want to promote traditional Russian spiritual and moral values. Candace has said close to that word for word. Being threatened by unfriendly foreign states like the United States. She's consistently characterizing the U.S. as the aggressor against Russia. They're worrying about foreign nonprofit organizations that threaten traditional values. Denials of the ideals of Russian patriotism, service to the fatherland, values of strong family, marriage, creative work, Russia's positive contribution to world history and culture, the destruction of the traditional family through the promotion of non-traditional sexual relationships, distortion of historical truth, destruction of historical memory, meaning Russia's version of history, denial of Russian identity, weakening of the all-Russian civic identity and unity. So all these little things, discrediting the idea of serving the fatherland. So there's all these little, like not just the grand typical Russian propaganda, but all of these little things here that fall under that. She's all either condemn those things that the Russian standards say they want to fight against with the people who come to Russia, or she's endorsing the things that they want to advance. So she's condemning what they don't like, supporting what they do like. And you just go through this, like it's much more detailed than people realize. So it's not as simple as her saying, oh, well, I want to appeal to Russia. I believe that they're a great Orthodox Christian state. And then all of the other weird things that she's saying about how good their coffee is and everything, that's just her going over the top on her own. Like, no, you look at the detailed standards of the beliefs they want to instill and the ones they want to fight against. Those oddball details all appear in there. Like she's checking the boxes. She's applying. She's auditioning.
And she's just spewing Russian propaganda. Look right here, this June 10th. Candace Owens agrees Russia is fighting Satanism in Ukraine. I think what's happening in Ukraine is simply ethnic cleansing from the Ukrainians, folks.
Yeah.
They are killing a bunch of men of fighting age with the ultimate goal of moving in other people on the border. Talking about the Ukrainians. Like, it couldn't be more backwards.
Oh, she also said, it was either that interview or one on the same day or the day after. There are two key things that she also did that I think people might have been offended at, but then they forgot. They didn't realize the significance of it. Part of the written declaration and applying for this program is you have to not just endorse Russia's values, but you have to abandon the ones back home. That's what you have to do it. And they have to believe that you're honest when you do it too, right? Because they don't want any infiltrators or people who are going to break the rules after they get there. She actually talks about why she abandoned the American dream. Almost exact quote. She used the term American dream, either ditched it, gave up on, abandoned, whatever. So she said that. And then she also said that the key to America's spiritual salvation is emulating Russia. The written declaration, she was verbalizing it on this tour to Russian TV. It's the same thing as a job interview. Now, she might actually believe it. Maybe in order to sleep at night, she makes herself believe the crap she's spewing. Because, like, how do you go to sleep at night knowing that you're lying and doing all this? But I mean, again, it's the same thing as a job interview. It's like, oh, what do they want? What's the job description? She's hitting all of it on that state media tour. That's not a coincidence. there isn't really any improvising. There's no unique Candace praise for Russia. It's all appears in here. And the other point I'd make is because, it's about treason, but some people are going to say, well, she's going to lose her audience when she goes to Russia. No, she won't. I mean, look at how cultish they are. Look at how she has said that she is God's platform. She is God's conduit. The Russians that she met with are basically praising her as being an almost divine figure, like saying it's a miracle. It's God's will for her to come at this moment and these things to happen. So they're promoting that cultish thinking to Russians and also to Candace's audience. But also think of it this way. When she really, really doubles down on being persecuted and being a victim, and there's even, before people jump down my throat, let me clarify what I'm about to say, but like, there's part of me that can almost, I don't know if sympathize is the right word. I can almost relate to in some way, where if you think you're going to lose everything financially, everything, and you have kids to take care of, and you're a mother, because think of what you will about her as a person. She's still a mother, and that's a powerful thing. That's a powerful love, even if whether you're a good mom or a bad mom, like that, like she's a mom. And her behavior in going to Russia, where there was a Ukrainian drone strike on the opening day of the event she spoke at, and she still went in.
Yeah.
While saying how safe and orderly Russia is. So when there's smoke near the entrance of the event, but she's a mom. So it's not just about her being persecuted and losing money in a lawsuit. What she's threatened with is losing everything, and she knows no one's going to hire her. Like, if she loses all of her wealth, how does she gain that back? She has no way to do that. And so she'll start framing it. And I think this part would actually be genuine in her twisted mind. Like, well, what about my kids? What about how do I take care of the kids? What about their future? Not just everything I worked for and the fact that I like having a rich lifestyle. Selfishness aside, she still has kids to take care of. That's what the audience is going to be thinking of. That's all they're going to be thinking of. When they hear about her being persecuted and she has to say, look, Russia's great, but I need to go there because I'm persecuted by the liberals and the woke and the Jews and the Zionists in America and the Macrons. There's going to be a lot of sympathy because she's going to say with some credibility, there's no other way to take care of my kids and give them a good future. She'd be right on that point. It's her fault, but that point will resonate with her audience, and they will feel a moral obligation to continue watching her show, even if it's based from Russia. And when they subscribe to her new channel, however that goes, they're also going to see the other hosts on RT, the other social media influencers that the Russians prop up. I bet there's going to be more people that follow Candace. I think when she does it successfully, you're going to see a parade.
Yeah, I think she would actually get an increase in followers. Look, Candace is very adept at being the heroine and the victim all in the same story.
Yes.
And this is how this is going to be framed. Like, all these people came after her. The system was against her. Brian Harpel was actually at Fort Huachuca, but he still sued her. And she's going to say, this proved me right. That's what she does every time. She's like, look, yeah, Brian Harpel had to prove that he wasn't at Fort Huachuca. He had to prove that he wasn't in on the murder of Charlie Kirk, but this proved me right. And now they've taken all my assets, and now I'm going to flee to Russia, and now you people are going to feel sympathetic, and I just have the entire U.S. government coming after me. And this is going to be used as a weapon against her enemies, and she's going to capitalize and exploit that to build even a bigger audience. Like, it's going to happen. I mean, you look at even Edward Snowden, however you feel about him. I mean, his popularity definitely increased when he went to Russia for all the same reasons. So, I mean, and she's going to be 100 times that.
Oh, so someone just pointed out, makes me a little awkward doing it. Clayton and Natalie Morris, that model. If you look at that from Redacted, I used to see Clayton a lot when I was at Fox I was on Fox at sometimes 3-4 times a week in person, going from 2010 to, I guess, 2016, 2017, something like that. Yeah. So a lot of these people, I wouldn't say I know them personally. They wouldn't be like, oh, Ryan's a friend, because they see people all the time. But for me, who doesn't see people like that a lot, it feels more familiar when I see them than they do towards me. But like Tucker, I would BS around with, and Megyn Kelly was awesome to me. Clayton was awesome. Clayton was hysterical. I really liked him. But there is a pattern here where people who need a career relaunch, or they end up in scandal, or they get arrested or they get sued. Clayton got sued very, very badly for a real estate scam that he says he was actually a victim in. I don't know. He doesn't seem, when I talked to him, it was hard to see him capable of the evil he's accused of. But I also have a habit of when I see someone in person like that, I get like, I make it exceptionally hard for myself to believe that. So I wouldn't trust my judgment on that. Just go by the facts. Because there was evidence that made me think, I guess I just had Clayton wrong, but he didn't seem like that guy. But that aside, there's a consistent pattern. Even Scott Ritter, the former UN inspector, an anti-war protester, who was a Republican, by the way, like he got arrested because he's a pedophile twice. He got convicted. Like that's the common pattern here. People who are in legal and financial trouble suddenly relaunch their careers in Russia or with Russia's ecosystem. John Kiriakou, or how do you say John Kiriakou.
Redacted. Are they in Russia?
No. But they're saying, like, could they end up there?
Gotcha.
I mean, being sued. I mean, they're being sued bad. I mean, Clayton, unless it's been settled, but like he was in trouble. He moved to Portugal. I think he moved back to the U.S. But that's like kind of a common thing here. It's people who need to relaunch their career, especially if it's because they ended up in a scandal or they got arrested or they got sued. Like that's a commonality with all of these people who are spouting Russian propaganda and get into the pro-Russia conspiracy theory ecosystem for profit.
Yeah, and understand these same people are also like defending Islam. And not just Islam, like the most extreme sects of it. So, like, you need to see the larger picture, folks. There's going to be a huge overlap of China, Russia, and jihadi propaganda because they're all working together. They're all working together because they have one thing in common, and that is the United States is their enemy, and they see it. They're the only way that they can progress. They see it as an existential requirement that they defeat the United States. And we need to understand that. Like, and also understand there's no way for us to really work with them because their goals are completely contradictory to ours. Like they are completely mutually exclusive. And we need to, like, they're trying to push BRICS while the United States needs to stay the standard, or the US dollar needs to stay the standard for the world for lots of different reasons, because we are what is holding these dictatorships back. These are authoritarians that want to dominate the globe, and the only thing that's in their way is the United States, and we're just barely. Again, I 100% believe, and you can just look at the effects of what's going on in the policies that the Democrats are pushing. The intent of those policies is to degrade and destroy the America. I mean, that's what they're there for, and we can see that has continued to happen over the last 50 plus years. Ryan, let's take some questions real quick. I'm sure some additional discussions will come. I showed this earlier, but I think it's worth showing again. Right On Gal says she's a Dugan puppet, a commie simp. All makes total sense as to why she's attempting to destroy Charlie's legacy and Erica. A dang devil. A dang devil. That's the worst kind of devil, a dang one. Hey, Gary, what do you think about Sean Ryan interviewing Candace after having Brian Harpole? Also, Sean's staff claims Harpole tried to give them a bag with Charlie blood on it, and they refused. I don't know about that last one. I haven't seen the interview. I don't think there's going to be any real surprises there. I see the path that Sean Ryan has gone down. He's just as bad as the rest of them. I think Sean Ryan, unfortunately, has been influenced by somebody, and that's why we see Candace on the show. And we have this self-licking ice cream cone, and where these people have this woke right podcast tour where they go on Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones, Candace Owens, you name it, and they're just all rotating through same ones over and over, pushing the exact same message.
If I may just add about the claim about Brian Harpole tried to give them the bag with Charlie's blood, the shirt with Charlie's blood on it and everything. Candace is leaving out a detail, or she might have mentioned it, but then quickly gloss over it. Is the claim is that he was doing that for a museum that Sean Ryan is a part of or has or something like that.
He has a museum in his studio, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like, oh, here's his like I think she said it was like a trophy. No, it's not a trophy. It was for a museum. Like, that's a pretty critical detail. If you're going to accuse someone of something as horrible as that. And perhaps the more important point is, out of everyone in the podcasting world, have you ever seen anyone more than Sean Ryan whose success is solely due to their editors? Like I've never, like, as a host, Ben Shapiro called him a potato. Yeah. And I totally get it. Like, I'll look at a Sean Ryan clip and the editors will make it look like it's like Independence Day, like that level of excitement. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta see a Sean Ryan interview. And then like it starts and he's like, tell me about that thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God.
He has like, he says like 10 phrases. No way.
Yeah, I know.
No way.
He has a string in his back. It's like one of those toys.
Are you serious?
Are you shitting me?
I talked about this on a space the other day. Look, I think you can look at Sean Ryan, and if you are not suspicious of everything about the Sean Ryan show, then I don't know what to tell you. Because Sean Ryan, number one, he worked for Ground Branch. He worked for the CIA. That requires a top secret SCI clearance. He is repeated. Number one, he has a record. He's been arrested multiple times. He's admitted to drug dealing. He's admitted to heavy drug usage and alcohol abuse. And how do you maintain a top secret clearance like that, working for the most sophisticated intelligence agency on the planet? I don't have an answer.
Do we know that that's true, that he was CIA? Usually they don't talk about it.
No, 100%. No, he's talked about it multiple times. I know people.
Yeah, but do we know that it's true?
Yes, I know people know him that worked with him. Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Huh.
100% is true. And then the other big thing is suddenly he gets out of that, decides to become a podcaster, and before his 100th show, he's getting millions of views. And not only that, this is something I pointed out too. It wasn't just like he started off in a basement with a freaking, iPhone. Like, he started off at a very high production level. And it's just got the production level on his show. I mean, I guarantee you that costs $50,000 probably an episode to produce.
Oh, really?
It's up there. And I had a producer that pointed this out to me. Between the cameras, the staff that he has, the facility that he has, it is not cheap. May not quite be that high, but it's in the tens of thousands of dollars for sure, just for the production of what he does. So there's something odd there. I'll just leave it there. Nothing makes sense as far as that goes. And something you just touched on is something that all of these podcasters do. You come into a fork in the road with something like he gave Brian Harpole attempted to give Sean Ryan the bag that he was wearing, for instance. That bag obviously is extreme historical value. Would make sense to go into a museum that would honor Charlie Kirk, honor his death, memorialize him, and memorialize this event for the country to understand that this is a political assassination. And that just, like, you can paint that in that way, and I think that's the more reasonable way. And there's probably 50 other ways that you can paint it, but what happens every time, Baron Coleman does the exact same shit. There's no, like, he does the exact same thing. You come to a fork in the road with 50 different options, and it's always like, it was the Jews. It's a trophy. It's a trophy. Like, it's all speculation, but we're going to go to the most severe, craziest speculation and convince our audience that this is the only option that's available. And when you do that every single time, we don't give any balance to the reporting. Like, hey, you know what? This could have happened, or this could be an option, or, worst case scenario, he could have been given away as a trophy because he was in on it, and he wants to memorialize that because he's a psychopath. I mean, when you don't give any other option, like, it just shows you how disingenuous and how dishonest they actually are.
How malicious. I mean, how horrible a person you have to be. Like, he goes to do that, which is a very nice emotional thing, and it's like, oh, you're going to twist it like that. And but I was laughing before, and you were saying something serious because somebody said Sean Ryan is a Cabbage Patch doll. I saw it. It was pretty good.
No way.
Are you shitting me?
Are you shitting me? He says, 10 words the whole podcast. And he's got 12 million views. Like, what are you talking about, dude? Tucker just straight up lied the other day about voting Republican for 35 years, even though he claimed as recently in 2020, 2016 that he hadn't voted. That's true. And Tucker's been caught so many lies. And that's another key detail, right? These people have just been caught lying over and over and over again, whether it's Candace Owens, whether it's Tucker Carlson. Sean Ryan, you're not going to catch him many lies because he doesn't say anything. But you know, Baron Coleman, I mean, just lie after lie, still telling people that you know, Tyler Robinson was in custody on September 11th at 6:25 p.m. when all of the documentation says otherwise. And that is the intent. There is to paint the picture that these Discord chats were totally fabricated so that we can turn this into this multi-agency conspiracy led by the federal government, and it's just horse crap, just horseshit. It really is. And
have you ever thought about, like, if we launched a show, if we were bad people, if we launched a show and we just did everything Candace did, but we made the same case with the same logic that she killed Charlie Kirk, how successful it would be? Because I bet we could make a stronger case that Candace killed Charlie Kirk, and definitely that she's linked to Jeffrey Epstein, because Jeffrey Epstein was connected to the event she spoke at. Like, if I didn't believe in objective morality, I could start a show and just copy every episode that she does and do the counterpart of logic, connecting her to the same things that she accuses everyone else of, and I would do make a stronger case of it. I may not perform better because she's a good messenger and charismatic, and I'm boring, but logically, I can make a stronger case.
No, I agree. I think the case is, the problem is like you said, we're honest. Like, I don't think that Candace Owens killed Charlie Kirk, you know, or had anything to do with Charlie Kirk's death. And I couldn't do that just for the performance sake. But I hear what you're saying, and I think you're absolutely, it'd be much easier to logically make a case against Candace Owens than it is Erica Kirk or anybody else. But
do you know that she didn't? Do you know?
Look, all she has to do is prove to me that she didn't do it.
All right, right, exactly.
I mean, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Candace homeschools, let that marinate.
Yeah.
Well, look, I think she outsources her parenting. I'll be honest with you. Strap yourselves in. This one's going to be a bloodbath, indeed. Ryan, do you see any Candace ties to the city of London, the head of the globalist snake, especially since George's father is the House of Lords? There's plenty of ties, but I'll let you answer that question.
Nope. I just do not know.
Yeah. So look, there are. Look, there's plenty of tentative ties between George Farmer, his father, even MI6 and things like that. Do I think that, like, I don't think his father wants anything to do with this. Do I think that a lot of this stuff is being botted and pushed by the UK in Europe? We already saw where the UK participated in the Russia hoax, which is completely different from the Russia facts that we're dealing with right now. But we saw that the MI6 provided intelligence, alleged intelligence, and confirmed intelligence that basically the FBI and other intelligence agencies shared intelligence with the UK about Donald Trump. Complete horseshit, complete made up stuff. They gave it back to them. And then they used, like, oh, look what the UK is saying. Look what the UK is. It's exactly what they did with the New York Times. They actually, to get a FISA warrant approved, they leaked information to the New York Times. The New York Times wrote about it, and they used the New York Times article to get the FISA application on Donald Trump and his administration. So look, all of Europe, the rest of the world hates Donald Trump because they're not getting over on Donald Trump the way that they will when there's another Democrat or even a lot of other Republicans in office. The rest of the European Union and our enemies, as well as our allies, which are really nothing more than dependents. They're not there to help us with anything. We help them. But the fact is they've gotten over us on trade deals, on everything, every single time. Every single time we take the short end of the stick. And they like that. And it costs them billions and billions of dollars when Donald Trump is in office. So you can just look at it from a money perspective. It would benefit them greatly to continue to push these anti-American, anti-MAGA, anti-Trump narratives that potentially will remove any power that he has. Potentially, we will lose the midterms, and then potentially they will end up with another Democrat in office in 2028. And the rest of the world would love that because they're all socialist globalists. They are. It's just a fact. I talked about this earlier. The French assassins who were after her said they killed Charlie. What happened to that? We just move on. Said before, our entire movement now is foreigners, leftists, and Muslims. I'll keep saying it. I think you're correct. And some of these woke right weirdos, like the guys that attempted to do a terrorist attack on the UFC Freedom 250 event. I mean, if you go through the court documents, and I did a little bit the other day, we need to update them, everybody, because there's been a couple other people that have been named now, and I'd like to go through their court documents. I haven't had a chance yet. But look, the exact same talking points, the Epstein files, the pedophiles run the country. Like, these people were either listening to Candace Owens and Tucker or both. Same exact talking points. They now have been incited to terroristic plans. They were going to kill. They were going to do a mass murder at the UFC 250 event. That's what they were going to do.
And they're anti-capitalist, by the way. Yeah.
I don't understand how it's okay for an American citizen to go to a foreign country we consider an enemy and trash talk America. That feels seditious. It feels seditious because it is. But here in the United States, we have this thing called the First Amendment, and I'm glad we do. And I'm very thankful for the fact that we have freedoms to where someone like Candace Owens can go to Russia, our adversary, our enemy, talk shit about the United States, just completely talk about how amazing Russia is, and then come back to the United States and the worst thing she's going to get is some bad press. If there was an influencer in Russia that came to the United States, talked shit about Russia, and just talked about how amazing America was, you would never hear from that person again. They would probably either be in Siberia in the gulag getting tortured somewhere, or they would be so irradiated that they'd be a small power plant being able to power all the devices wirelessly around them for about a day before they died. A horrible death. They will also be in charge of the 2030 census, and if Dems get control of that again, we're well and truly screwed. Like, it doesn't even matter. Look, if they pack the Supreme Court, every single Democrat is talking about doing that. They're going to get rid of the filibuster. They're going to pack the Supreme Court. Suddenly, they will be able to operate with impunity. They will be able to do anything because anytime it gets challenged, it's going to go to the Supreme Court, and they're going to rule in their favor every single time, just like what we see at the federal level already. And that's going to get even worse. Folks, we're going to see our borders open. We're going to see a pathway to citizenship for all of these illegal aliens. They're going to be able to vote. They're going to completely remove any security that we have on our elections. There'll be massive voter fraud, and conservatives will never win another election. They'll take our gun rights. Like, all the things that they've been trying to do, it's going to culminate in 2028. And they're saying it. They're letting you know. They're not even trying to hide it. So, question, don't you have to notify the State Department when you go to Russia? Yeah, you're going to go through the visa process, and they're going to notify you, especially when there's a level 4 travel warning. All right, they're going to give you a brief on that. But I mean, they're not going to stop you from going. You're a free American. You can go wherever the heck you want, for the most part.
You see it, Candace, I should have mentioned this, the language that she used. She said as soon as she came back from, while she was in Russia, people didn't pick up on this. She told the Russian state media, she was like, I feel like I need to come here for years to study religion and Christianity under the Russian Orthodox Church that Putin controls and is also pro-jihadist. So the pretext was already seeded on their end, but then on our end, publicly to her audience, she first said, I'm definitely coming back to Moscow for at least a month, which if you look at the process for going through the visa and getting there, a month is like it fits in there pretty nicely. But then she also said, and what's interesting about this is that it's an anomaly because no one asked her. Like, it's an answer to a question no one asked. She goes, she just decided to post on X, I'm going to be applying for a longer term permit just because George and I don't want to have to go through all this paperwork every time we go back to Russia, because we want to go there biannually, just like we go biannually to the UK, and then she continues speaking. So if you're breaking that down, first of all, why is she even like her issue with paperwork and then filing for a permit in the future is not engagement worthy. Like you only put that out there because you need that out there. That's not in response to a question, a controversy, or anything. And then the second part being like, oh, we're going to go there biannually, just like we go to the UK. That's a defensive answer because she knows that could potentially look bad. And again, she wants it to look like there's no anomaly. And when you look at intelligence operations that are influence operations or defections, one of the things that they prefer is not just that you hightail it to Russia or wherever on the first go.
Yeah.
Usually they want you going back and forth on a routine so that you, from a counterintelligence perspective, then you can see if anyone's following you. You can also make sure the person you're recruiting is legit and not a double agent. It's still safe to bring over. And then you have the opportunity to defect at whichever moment is best. So some people are saying, well, if your theory was true, how come she didn't just stay over there? Well, first of all, the visa process that she has to go through, both for Dubai and Russia, kind of prevents that. Actually, the amount of time she was there fits it. Her going back there fits it. And then in terms of how these operations typically go, at that phase in the influence operation, what do? You regularly travel in a public way to that location back and forth, and you make it look routine so that when you finally make that final jump, it's not as big of a leap and it's not as noticeable, and you do so in the safest, most prepared possible way. So it's all lining up. It's perfect. It fits.
It really does. Has Ryan seen the recent film, The Wizard of the Kremlin, with Paul Dano?
I have not. I'm going to write it down right now.
Yeah, I will too. Look, I mean, everything that we're seeing is just like classic textbook disinformation operations, cognitive warfare, misinformation operations, psychological operations. Like, this is how Russia has operated, and not just Russia, China and our enemies have operated at scale for the last 40 years. Plus, it's getting a little more sophisticated, but it's still obvious because we are now using fifth generational warfare through the internet, and they understand how to manipulate people through messaging. And they've done it without the internet, which is much harder, by the way. And now that they have the internet, they can do it at a scale they've never been able to do before. And then they can boost certain people. They can spend, instead of spending, $20 million doing an operation with a bunch of people, trying to get through a bunch of entities and doing it on the ground here in the United States and not getting a big return, they can spend $1 million and they can create these bot farms. They can do all the things that we're talking about. And then they can make contacts with people like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson. It's so simple and it's so easy, and they can reach so many people that it's insane. And this is why this matters, folks. This is why that myself, Ryan, and many other people are trying to tell you, like, this is not just ignore Candace and she'll go away. Star of the grift. Like, that doesn't work. Like, that's what they want you to do. They want you to ignore this so that the cancer can metastasize. Like, this is serious. This is as serious as it gets. It's as serious as it gets. We're at war right now. And unfortunately, we're at war, and the ones leading the charge are American traitors. It's just a fact.
The other thing to remember is that it's a global audience now. So sometimes we analyze this just in terms of American audience is what they're trying to do. But if alienating part of your American audience gets you more subscribers globally, then it makes financial sense. So yeah, we have to adapt to that. And I think it's probably not a coincidence that a lot of these alternatives that sound very similar to RT, Al Jazeera, Telemundo, the Venezuelan state-controlled propaganda network. Like, look at the dates of when they got shut down, got sanctioned, or had to register as foreign agents. And then look at when all this woke right stuff started popping up. In fact, RT, the editor-in-chief of RT, after it got shut down when Russia invaded Ukraine and we sanctioned them, she openly bragged on Russian TV. She's like, well, it doesn't actually matter because we've already set up, and this is a quote, an empire of covert projects to influence Western public opinion for when RT is no longer able to access them. She didn't disclose what they were, but I wonder what that covert empire, the empire of covert projects targeting Western opinion, I wonder what that consists of. Let's take a look at the chronology of some of these influencers and when they became really rabidly, almost comically pro-Russia. And it's on the day of or right after when Russia invaded Ukraine. And according to RT, that's essentially by design. In fact, Candace first started talking about her being like an expert on Russia. Like she started attacking other people. Like that person thinks they're an expert on Russia. That person thinks they're an expert on Russia. She started becoming really proud that she was like implying that she knows more. That started, if I trace it right, it was like October 2021. And then it really went wild right before the Russian invasion of the Ukraine. And one of the ways you can tell someone was part of Russia's information operations leading up to the invasion of Ukraine is that they hung a lot of them out to dry. So there were Russian influence agents who spoke English, and they were all out there saying it's a conspiracy theory that Russia would invade Ukraine because the Russian government didn't care that they were going to embarrass their influence agents. And they all said it the same way at the exact same time, including Candace. And then Russia invaded Ukraine, and those same influence agents, even though they had to be embarrassed and be a little bit annoyed at the Russian government, still went right back to broadcasting propaganda. But when you can see them following the narrative like that, even when it's blatantly untrue, and even when it ends up embarrassing themselves, that means you're part of an orchestrated system. You're following orders, or you're agreeing to comply with orders if you still have some autonomy. And so I just thought that was interesting when I was looking at the chronology where I'm like, oh, she suddenly became a Russia expert, like right around the time that the official decision to invade Ukraine was formally made, right when RT said that they were setting up covert projects in case RT got shut down in the US. Like that all coincides. And then in like the week before the invasion, when all the English language, Russia Connect influence agents were all saying Russia would never invade Ukraine because of reasons X, Y, Z, she was one of them. And then Russia invaded. And it's just, I mean, if I was a statistician, a mathematician, I mean, the odds would be way beyond what chance could account for.
Yeah, and I want everybody to look right here. Again, just going through this timeline, I encourage literally every person in the world to visit Russia, Candace Owens. You will be spiritually moved by Russia. Everything that we have been told about Russia is a lie. One of the things I started dabbling in, there's a bunch of former Russian citizens that have YouTube channels, and I think there's even a couple that like have some, they're probably not in Russia, but they're getting that information out, like what actually happens in Russia to the average person. So I encourage you to go watch some of those channels. And like some of these people were specifically addressing some of the claims that Candace Owens made. And hopefully people understand when someone like Candace Owens, she may not even feel like she's lying when she's saying this, but she is being given a very specific tour, and she sees what they want her to see, that she's taken everywhere. It's a propaganda tour. It is meant to convince her as much it is for her to convince us.
That's right.
And that's the thing that you have to keep in mind with these types of authoritarian nations. Gary is getting banger after banger guests. Congrats for sure. Well, thank you. And Ryan is a banger guest. I actually call him, that's actually his nickname when I talk to him on via text. I'm like, what's up, banger?
Yeah, I've long been known as the banger. Ever since my high school days, the banger.
Odorized Ramblings, we appreciate you, buddy. Every bit helps in the truth content. We appreciate you and your team. Folks, this is not a it's not a money-making venture, so we appreciate all the support. I promise you. We don't get the views, the super chats. It isn't cool to sit here and tell you the truth. The truth isn't cool. And it's not profitable. And by reputation or by money, all we do is get hammered all day, every day, getting cease and desist from Russian propagandists and preservation orders from the queen of lies herself, the DEI queen, Candace Owens. COVID-19, the Great Reset by Klaus Schwab. The First Global Revolution by Alexander King. Limits to Growth by the Club of Rome. Henry Kissinger, something 200 population measures. I don't know. I feel like I'm reading text out of a.
You see this comment from Right On Gal? She went. So there's a specific like neighborhood they're trying to set up of American conservative Christians in Russia as like an ideological base. And Right On Gal says, I spent 2 weeks in I don't want to mispronounce it, but that's to pick up my parents who were missionaries there for a year. I'm almost positive that's where they were trying to set up this community. And it's just like failing miserably. So Russia is a dirty, oppressive poop hole. But it's just interesting that she mentioned that that's the spot where like OKA Agency, the company that Candace hanging out with, their primary focus is moving people to that spot. I don't think Candace is going to until they make it nice enough. And she would probably want to operate out of Moscow for what their purposes. But
she's going to get a freaking penthouse high-rise apartment.
Yeah.
We're going to take care of her. She's going to have her own security team. She's going to have butlers, freaking maids, people to suckle her children, all the things.
Yeah.
Patriot Boymont, this is a great question, actually. Do we think that foreign countries played a role in Charlie's death or just pounced at the opportunity, since that seems to be when she completely lost her mind? I think so far I've seen no evidence that there is any other adversarial country involved in any of this. I think, look, there's very clear evidence. Charlie Kirk didn't just start having security covering him in 2025. He's had security for dozens of, I don't know about dozens, but for a really long time, multiple years. And it's been because of legitimate death threats from the left. This is well publicized. We knew what was going on, and especially from the militant, trans-Tifa type folks, exactly who ended up shooting him. It was a trans activist. That's what we see. What I am willing to entertain, and I think it might even be plausible, is that we did have outside, whether it was adversarial countries or political organizations, because I think those exist too, that could have been targeting people like Tyler Robinson online and radicalizing them, weaponizing them. This is something I've talked about since I talked about this within days of the Charlie Kirk. And this is something I talked about when I was covering the Butler assassination regarding Thomas Crooks. Those are things that we don't know. And this is something I talked about. Please go watch my interview with Chase Hughes, who talks about how easy this actually is. But I think those are real possibilities. But I don't think that there was another country involved from a logistics or planning side of this. I think there could easily be a radicalization, brainwashing, psychological operation taking place in these Discord chats and all these other things. And then there's the, like, what is it? The queer gun owners of SLC or whatever they are, the armed queers of SLC. There's some really interesting ties there. Number one, the leader of that is a trans, like, Iranian and like straight up IRGC type person. There could be connections. There could have been training that took place that there may just not be evidence of. And that's the other part of this, is like a lot of this stuff is very hard to trace. And even if you have a competent FBI, they may even have some evidence, but not enough to like actually prosecute anybody with this. So I think it is, all those things are possible. I think ultimately, after more and more information has come out, I mean, look, folks, when you go through the charging documents, when you go through the different search warrants, when you've watched all the court hearings that I've watched, like, there's just so much evidence that rules almost anything else out operationally. Like, there's just no room for anybody else. There's no room for additional conspirators. I mean, we're going to see the surveillance footage of every step of what Tyler Robinson did. And you're going to see clear footage. You're going to see him in the position. I think it's too far away from the particular camera that would have coverage of him, but you're going to see him move to that position where he took the shot from. You're going to see him on the exfil. They have cell phone location data. They have GPS data on his car. They know exactly where he was. If you go read the electronic search warrants, the additional text that he sent multiple people, including Lance Twiggs, like, He did it. He said he did it. He confessed to it. And I know there's all these people that are desperate to turn it into something bigger because it's profitable. And on top of that, yes, I do think that this was a prime opportunity for political and foreign adversaries to exploit this and capitalize on this, to use it to damage the Trump administration. I really do. And I think all of those entities are involved. The George Soros types are pushing this stuff. The left is pushing this stuff. I don't know if you got anything to add to that, Ryan.
No, just that it's becoming increasingly unnecessary to do that type of stuff where you train them directly and you give orders. Like, that's becoming increasingly just old, out of date style. You don't need to do it. You just create the ecosystem of hate, or sometimes called a digital colony. Yeah. And you just get those types of people in one spot. You incite them. You don't have to take any risks. It works better, higher chance of success. So it's not really necessary for anyone else to be involved. But I will say this. One of the groups that might be connected to the person that Tyler Robinson was dating, there's an investigation into at least, I think, one person associated with that has all these ties to the Cuban government. And I saw that. I didn't know about that. So,
it's the armed queers of the SLC, and that is the leader of that organization.
Yes, and that leader is connected to, I think it was like National Network of Cuba type groups. Like, that's a coalition, but was having like direct relation with the Cuban government. So if there is a lead to follow, it would be that one. I don't see it necessary in the case for there to be an outside player to that granular level where you have to, be really involved to that degree. But after hearing that, if I found out there was a connection there, I'd be surprised. No, wouldn't be.
And folks, you have to understand, like, with the AI programs that these state actors have, and even well-funded political actors have, they throw that AI program and they start scraping all of these chats, these forums, the discords, and they can, just through what they're saying, they can psychologically analyze the people and know exactly who to target. And then they psychologically analyze this person, say, hey, this is this type of person. He has these vulnerabilities, or she has these vulnerabilities. And by the way, let's pull out this program. Let's plug this in. And now they can actually tip them over the edge from just talking about violence or identifying those tendencies within a person to actually turning those tendencies into action. It's not hard. It's not sophisticated. These are well-established things that all, like MK Ultra, that was back in the 60s, folks. All of these state-sponsored, all these states have been pushing and developing these psychological manipulation techniques for dozens and dozens of years, and they got it dialed in. I promise you, they can find these people. They know exactly what they need to do, who they need to target, how they need to get them to act, and it's really not difficult. It really isn't. And it's so much easier than meeting up with them and training them, just like Ryan said, and then like having a real shooter over here. Like, why would you take that risk? Why are you going to put a separate shooter somewhere else or program an exploding microphone that defies physics? Folks, I said this today. No offense, but the exploding microphone is an IQ test. And if you believe it, just start flavoring your windows. You're retarded. All right, I'm telling you right now that there's no device out there that can produce a powerful enough blast within a small component like a Rode microphone. I have some over there. I can show it to you. But yet somehow it doesn't create equal and opposite reaction. The weak magnet still stays attached to it. There's no residue. There's no explosion. There's nothing on his white, clean T-shirt. It doesn't even rip it. Like, you're an idiot if you believe that. And for a long time, I was like, well, you know what? At least the exploding microphone is so stupid. Candace Owens isn't even promoting that. Candace Owens won't even touch that. But yet here we are, the dumbest of all the theories. I'm going to talk more about the exploding microphone the next couple of days, too.
Someone made the point. I'm purposely triggering you with this. Israel had exploding pagers. So what about that?
All right, folks. There's plenty of pictures and videos of the exploding pagers. We have omnidirectional explosion, exactly what you would expect to see. All right. And by the way, those weren't even lethal, a lot of them. I think like a large majority of the people that experienced that didn't die. and it looks like a blast. It is so obvious. And here's the other thing that why this is so stupid, why this is so dumb. Number one, the people that had them in their pocket, guess what? It blew up. It blew their pants. Like, you can go find these videos. They're a little hard to find, but you can search long enough. I found them plenty. What was I going to say with that?
Probably involved the word retarded.
Definitely involved the word retarded. But look, it was, I know what it was. How do you mask the auditory signature?
Right.
If we're standing, like, if Charlie Kirk had a single firecracker underneath his shirt and it went off, people wouldn't look behind them. All right, they wouldn't confuse that with a gun that's firing in the distance from behind. They'd be like, oh, I heard the blast come from Charlie Kirk himself. Folks, there was hundreds of people within 15 feet of him. You don't think that they would be like, oh, look, the blast came from him. And you can't hide the signature of a blast. I don't care if it's a shape charge or anything else. Go look at shape charges. I've literally held Iranian shape charges in my hand. I've seen them go off. All right. By the way, an RPG is a shape charge. Like, you cannot have an equal and opposite reaction and nothing happen. You cannot have the energy to kill a person and it not be obvious underneath his shirt. You cannot have that type of explosion and not see smoke, dust, the shirt getting burnt, a hole in the shirt, nothing. And it's a thin t-shirt, not even residue. We don't even have any black smoke, like black residue on a shirt. It's ridiculous. The Grand Platinum is a turd too, Gary. Watch, he will be on the Sean Ryan soon. Clown show. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. Paramount Tactical, does Ryan know of Carrie's?
Yeah. Yep.
She wrote
Very, very good.
Woke Right years ago, and I believe is writing a book now about it. She might have coined that term.
I don't think she coined the term, but she's a very good researcher, very good writer. Yes, I know her. I'm looking forward to her book. It'll be good.
Yeah. Did anyone ask how George's fishing went? We didn't see any pictures of any fishing taking place.
Oh, did you see that she updated that pretext? So she went from, George, has gone to Russia a lot because Europeans just travel all over the place. And then it turned into, he goes there for fishing trips. So he's been there a bunch. And then it changed to, George has gone there historically for, 1 to 2 times a year. And then she might have forgotten that, but maybe she wasn't thinking of aligning data points is bad for her story. Because then she said, we're looking at going to Russia 1 to 2 times a year biannually, just like we go to the UK, which in and of itself wouldn't be significant, but you line it up with everything else. And you're like, that's how a story develops. It's like, 1 to 2 times he goes supposedly for fishing, even though there's no evidence that he actually does that. And that's not really a thing. And then it's like, by the way, we're also planning on going 1 to 2 times a year. That's just another thing that just fits how the evolution of a lie and a pretext goes.
Yeah, and I want to say something back to the going back to the exploding microphone thing for just a minute. All the things that I just laid out, folks, I have seen John Bray and others explain them away. All right. Well, like this. What they can't tell you is how the microphone's over here, but yet his neck is actually, the wound takes place over here. I've heard some people say it's an entrance wound over here, and that's next to wound, all these other things. And they will give you a pseudoscientific explanation and a presentation that will explain all the physics behind this, and it will go against what I just said. And folks, that's how this works. That's what they're going to give you. Somebody outlined exactly John Bray's entire argument the other day, and I was like, Grok, just analyze the validity of this. And they were basically, Grok was like, this is a pseudoscientific BS. He uses a lot of words to explain nothing. And that's what they do, folks. I think the Baron Colemans, the John Brays, they're very good at giving you a convincing presentation. It doesn't mean it's true. And I'm telling you right now, the exploding microphone defies physics. It can't happen. It didn't happen. There's 1,000 reasons why. And the same thing with everything else. Look, that's how good con men convince some of the smartest people on earth. And I don't think that the conspiracy crowd are actually the smartest people on earth, but they're very convincing in what they do. It doesn't make what they say true. And there's times when I said, well, this person did this or they said this. Oh yeah, they explained that. No, they didn't explain it. They gave you an explanation that was total BS. It doesn't mean it's valid, doesn't mean it's real, but you're just taking it hook, line, and sinker. And that's what's really concerning to me about all of this, is that the American people have become so gullible. And it's not all your fault. It's not like we've been traumatized by 4 years under Joe Biden that weaponized the DOJ, that weaponized the FBI, that, prosecuted people for protesting while they let people burn down cities and they got nothing, and kill people during the George Floyd riots. I understand why you don't trust government, but it doesn't mean that everything that the government says, especially when we have a completely new administration that I think is actually trying really hard to bring credibility back to most of these institutions. And I just don't see where the lies are. And I'll look for them. And if I find one, I'll be the first to tell you. I will be the most critical of our government. I promise you. But it's not the same. We voted in new people. They're getting things done. They're getting prosecutions left and right. I don't even remember what it was. Kash Patel just announced some new prosecutions. So things are happening the way that we want it to, but they're actually following the rule of law, and it's not happening as fast as people would like. I know deportations aren't happening as fast as people like, but the border's closed. We have net negative migration. This administration is doing great things. They're not perfect. I have a lot to criticize them over, but you're having your enemies convince you of lies so that you will vote against your own interests. And that's what propaganda is. And I just hope that people wake up a little bit, use a little bit of logic and reason. Don't accept things without evidence. And that's really the problem here, is like, you're like, I think the government lies. I'm going to trust this person and just accept anything they say, regardless of the lack of evidence or the receipts that they bring, because they don't bring any. There's not, like, these people don't produce a single piece of evidence, real evidence, for a single material claim that they make. When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty. Getting these guns is going to be harder than they think. I don't disagree with you. All right, Ryan, this is the only question that matters here. I think you may have been asked this before, but we're going to ask it again because Ray Bronson paid for a super chat. Peanut butter on French toast, Ryan.
I have no idea. Is that supposed to mean something that I like besides?
Oh, no, it means what it means.
Literally. Okay. I figured that it was like a immature reference, like making fun of me somehow. Peanut butter French toast. Have never heard of it. Never going to try it.
Never gonna.
You're a terrible person for even asking me, but you spent $5 to ask me. So, I mean, that's kind of impressive.
You guys go follow Ray Bronson. He's put out some great content. Gary, you're building treasure in heaven where it won't rot. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's just the right thing to do. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Bring up that story, Jen, if you will. Antifa members who shot at police got 100 years in prison federal. Like, pull up that story. That's a super important one, that because this would have never happened under the Biden administration. There's multiple other arrests, and like we can just go down the list. Like, violent crimes have fallen by almost 50%, like the lowest level I think they've ever been. Definitely the greatest decrease they've ever had. We've reduced opioid death by like 40,000. Like, Donald Trump is saving 40,000 lives per year over Biden. And I know people, I just posted this today, I know people are freaking out about the gas prices, and I get it. It sucks. And it's probably like the one, like, a president could be doing awesome if gas prices are high. It's going to be used as a political weapon. There's no doubt about it. But I just looked it up and I posted about that. Maybe I'll find it real quick. The average gas price under the 4 years of Biden was higher than the average gas price under the year and a half of Trump so far. The peak gas price under Biden was higher than Trump right now. So, like, I get it. And I want gas prices. And by the way, they're going to. Trump has, we have more domestic oil production than we've ever had in this country, ever. It's the highest it's ever been. Right now, oil exports are higher than they've ever been. If you want another Democrat to come in office and shove green energy down your throat, completely destroy our domestic oil production and our energy independence here in the United States, gas prices are going to go up too. All right, and you're gonna be forced to pay for stupid and through taxes and everything else because they're highly supplemented. Solar panels, wind turbines, all those things. All right, increase that. Can you increase the size of the go to the right top right usually? Anyways, there we go. Today, Justice Department announced that 8 North Texas anti-cell operatives were sentenced for their roles in rioting, using weapons and explosives, providing material support to terrorist obstruction, and the attempted murder of an Alvarado police officer at the Prairie Land Detention Center on July 4, 2025. As we go down, Maricela Rueda was sentenced to 70 years in prison. They got a total of 450 years. Cameron Arnold was sentenced to 50 years in prison. Savannah Batten was sentenced to 50 years. Zachary Evitz, 50 years. Bradford Morris, 50 years. Elizabeth Soto, 50 years. Daniel Rolando Sanchez Estrada with 47 names was sentenced to 30 years. You got a name discount. The more names you have, the less time you get. So, look, this is what's happening here. And we actually have some rule of law. Folks, I just went to D.C. the week before last. I have never seen D.C. so clean. The last time I went during the Biden administration, I went multiple times during the Biden administration, on every street, there's a freaking homeless encampment. There's like, you have to like completely sidestep and go off the sidewalk into the road to get past like this cardboard tent structure. It's like a freaking homeless duplex that these people built, and they're protected. They were protected under Biden. Like there was trash everywhere. DC, I just went, is freaking beautiful. It's the cleanest I've ever seen it. I didn't get a chance to go look at the reflecting pool, but I heard that's pretty nice too when they're not dumping things in there to help grow algae and ripping up the liner that we just spent. Oh, that was the other thing too. I don't know if you saw this. Did you know that, you know how everybody was making a big deal because Trump spent $14 million on the reflecting pool? Did you see all that, Ryan?
No, I didn't see that.
So he spent $14 million on, repairs and on the reflecting pool. And they're like, oh, like a week later, there's freaking algae. Well, guess what? Obama spent $34 million on doing the same thing, and a week two later, there was freaking algae all through it too. It was a complete waste of money. At least what Donald Trump is doing, if people aren't throwing crap in there and throwing fertilizers and everything else that will accelerate the growth of algae, it would actually work. It is. If they didn't have double standards, they'd have none at all. Well, listen, Ryan, this was awesome, man. I know you got a whole lot more coming out, and we'll definitely have you on again. We'll definitely promote when you release the other parts of this series. You've been doing excellent work investigating this and finding that information. So thank you for what you do. If you will, just kind of leave the audience with some final words.
Sure. So you can follow me on social media so that you can learn more about what we found in regards to the Candace Owens story, but more importantly, what's going on more broadly, how to apply that to your analysis of everything else that's going on, because everything's so interconnected. Like Gary said, it really is a war. And I still think it's one that the vast majority of people don't see happening, but also don't have the right framing for to really understand. My next episode is coming out tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern. So you can follow me on social media for that. That one is titled "When the Bear Targeted TPUSA," so that we can go to the first phase of the influence operation, so people can see how this whole thing unfolded, because it's a fascinating story. If you want to support my work, you can go to ryanmauro.com. I have a nonprofit, so you can get the tax-deductible donation if you want, in order to support my work. Especially right now, I'm going through some income changes, employment changes. I'll be fine. But right now it's really appreciated, so I can continue doing this stuff, because it does take a lot of time, this deep research, instead of just doing a Candace thing and like reading tweets every single day. And that time takes away from my ability to, support myself and keep this going. My challenge to people is, if you think that my work needs to be out there and continue, if you could donate $1, at least $1, and it's tax deductible. So depending on how much money you make, that might be just 75 cents. But even just $1. Like, that's my challenge to people. If you can afford it, if you claim to be passionate and believe in this and want to stop it, a $1 tax-deductible donation at ryanmauro.com is actually a big help in numerous ways. If just a certain percentage of people did that, I'd be able to remain not just doing this, but also be independent, because the biggest reason we're dealing with this problem isn't just our adversaries doing it and us not responding. It's because we have a lack of people who know how to educate and research this stuff that are independent.
Yeah.
Political nonprofits, investigative nonprofits, media outlets, influencers with business sponsorships all fall into this two-party binary. And as someone who's operated in that his entire career, the amount of conflicts of interest and the echo chamber effect are far worse than you could ever imagine. And that's why no matter who you are, no matter how independent you think you are, you're only going to get like anyone that's affiliated with the right-wing part of that business, or anyone that's associated with the left-wing part, which is virtually everybody in some way, they will be muzzled. I've seen it. No one will tell you that.
Yeah.
No one will tell you that, except for me, because I'm independent right now. The biggest problem out there, the only way to solve it is to support people who can be independent and speak freely and don't have to be muzzled and think about being threatened by bosses and donors and business partners. And that's why all this bad stuff is happening. That's the common denominator. You want to shut it down? Help people who want to be independent. And this is a way to do it. Support Gary, obviously. But what I'm asking for is, if you can afford it and you feel passionate about this topic, I just ask you to prove it with a $1 tax-deductible donation at ryanmauro.com.
Folks, go crazy and go $2.
Oof.
Go double it. Yeah, look, this isn't cheap. With what you're doing, with what I'm doing, and it is all the people on this conspiracy side, they are so passionate about this. They are throwing dollars hand over fist and super chats and views, and they're out there fighting down in the comments. They're retweeting and sharing all of these creators' content. We need you to be just as passionate about the truth. We really do. So, support us. If you want independent voices like ours to remain, it is what it is, folks. So number one, what I want you to do right now, definitely go support Ryan. Number two, share this content, share it, get us more subscribers, more viewers, more views, all of those things. And we appreciate it, but we need your support. We really do, whether that's monetary and, fighting a good fight out there, fighting against lies. We need you doing that as well. But, at the end of the day, take some money to keep the lights on for sure. All right, folks. Well, listen, we really appreciate you. We love you so much. Thank you. And I'm so happy to be back. We had a death in the family. I'm going to leave it at that, but I'm glad to be back. I appreciate, number one, I want to thank SK Double Dub and Carrie Smith and Jen, the producer, for holding it down last night so we could have a show last night. Thank you guys. I've heard nothing but great things. I didn't watch it yet. I hope to at some point. But I've heard amazing things. So thank you guys for doing that for us. And thank you guys that supported them and watched those. It was probably a better show than I ever put on, for sure. So anyways, thank you guys. Thank you so much. And until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.